Good evening, everyone, and welcome to your council chamber. We're here for our regular council meeting of Wednesday, February the 25th. And I want to welcome everyone who's here and everyone who's watching online, staff and members of council. We do have all members of council here this evening. Councillor Drodge has joined us virtually, but so we do have quorum. I will let you know that this meeting is being audio and video recorded and live streamed on the Town of Innisfil's YouTube channel and shall form part of the record, which will be retained in accordance with the town's retention bylaw. And you can get more information about that bylaw from the clerk's office. And with that, I would also ask everybody for a moment, if they would just make sure that their phones are on silent, just so that there's no interruptions of our meeting. Thank you so much. And now I'll ask Councillor Constantine, please, to deliver the land acknowledgement statement.
The town of Innisfil acknowledges that Innisfil is situated on treaty land that is steeped in rich indigenous history. The town also acknowledges that this land is the traditional territories of the first people of Turtle Island. It is shared between the Anishinaabe people of Beausoleil First Nation, Chippewa of Rama First Nation, and Chippewa of Georgina Island First Nation, and we thank them for generations of stewardship. This meeting place is still the home to many indigenous people, and as settlers, we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. The town acknowledges the four sacrifices that are the foundation of Canadian society today. We are dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and committed to moving forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nation, Métis, and Inuits.
Thank you very much, Councillor. So now we'll go to item 2, which is open forum. We've got a long list of open forum speakers today, so we'll go through this list. And I will ask that we do have many that want to speak, so I will ask everybody to please, if you can, adhere to the 2-minute limit, because we do have an awful lot of things to cover on the agenda this evening, and I really hate cutting people off. So what I'm going to try to do this evening is share my clock just to give you a sense of when the 2-minute time is up. And so we'll start then first with the first person on open forum, which is Saman Mangla, and it's in regards to item C6, and I'm not seeing him here. So we'll go on to the next one, which is Christine Gavin, and it's on item C2. Whenever you're ready.
Good evening. My name is Christine Gavin, and I live at 974 Barry Avenue, right across from the proposed flood and restoration block. I've carefully reviewed the updated amendment, and it was deeply troubling to me that staff are of the opinion that an additional public meeting is not required. You only have to mention the word water and alarm bells sound off in my head. Well water, water quality and quantity, flood water, spring water level, aquifer water, high water table, pooling water, stagnant water, storm water, Carson Creek water, Lake Simcoe water, restoration block water, ditch water. Water concerns rank very high to all of us and need to be addressed moving forward. I would like to see the functional servicing stormwater management report so that I can better understand how my house and property will not be negatively affected by the development due to time constraints. I will focus on ditch water for the moment. A significant portion of the subdivision runoff will drain south to the restoration block. Where it's released, it will be controlled and directed through a culvert entering into the Cumberland ditch, 2 meters from my house foundation. Although the flow is to be controlled, it will fluctuate, sitting stagnant, moving slowly or rushing rapidly. Whether slow-moving or fast, water will always be present. A ditch filled with water directly affects the surrounding water table, and the influence typically extends 5 meters away. The constant flow of water, especially fast-moving, will wear away the soil and erode my property. Will my sump pump burn out from overuse and my electrical bill go through the roof? Constant unmanaged water in a ditch can erode the soil that supports that foundation. Will an elevated water table leave my crawl space damp or crack my foundation? Mayor Dolan, councillors, You have the sole discretion to determine by resolution whether an additional public meeting is required. You can hear the worry in my voice. Please do the responsible thing. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your delegation. So I'm going to ask everybody not to applaud or boo or anything. It's a house of government. I know sometimes if you watch in Queen's Park or Parliament Hill, it doesn't seem like that, but we do have a respectful workplace policy, and we just ask that everybody's voice is heard, and whether you agree or not. Next is Fred Schleffinger. Mr. Schlesinger, whenever you're ready, sir.
I'm Fred Schleifinger from 1018 Whisker Avenue. On November 13th last year, I ran out of water twice during the pump testing of just one new well on the development property. Cambium was monitoring my well. The on-site technician from Cambium was informed about both outages. I was just doing laundry when the outages occurred. I have been a full-time resident for over 32 years and have never run out of water in all those years. I have also not run out of water since the pump test. The summer of 2025 was one of the driest I could remember, and I did not run out of water. I believe that test pumping of just that one new well interfered with my well to the point where I had no water twice. I can only imagine the problems the existing wells will have when all 16 new wells are in use. Why on earth would the town allow a new housing development dependent on private wells to proceed when the testing results are already indicating interference problems with the existing wells? If the aquifer could sustain the existing and new wells, the mitigation measures targeting the aquifer and wells, as noted in the report, would not be necessary. The mitigation measure that makes sense is to bring in municipal water. Bringing in municipal water is a proactive, actionable strategy that would eliminate future water concerns for the entire neighborhood. I request that council delay this development until additional discussions, meetings, and considerations are made about bringing in municipal water into this neighborhood. Municipal water is an eventuality. That time is now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Next on my list is Dawn, and the same last name, and I'm not going to do that. Welcome, Dawn.
Thank you. Dawn Schleifinger, 1018 Whisker. I would like to address Cambion's letter of February 4th this year, the pumping test response comments. Page 1 noted that the testing date was my laundry day. We asked Cambion and we were told it was okay to do laundry. Page 2 states the well at 1018 Whisker was not adversely influenced. We ran out of water twice during the pump test. If that's not adverse influence, then what is? Cambion also stated that doing laundry is intense domestic water use. There are 16 proposed dwellings that may be multi-generational or multi-family. Imagine when those people take showers, do laundry, flush their toilets. That level of draw on the aquifer, that's intense. Cambion also mentioned the dry summer last year as one of the explanations for our water issue. We did not lose water last summer. This was not a once-in-a-lifetime event, however. Expert predictions of increasingly dry summers should be a consideration whether this project goes ahead in its current form. Staff report DSR 02026 mentions mitigation measures. Page 15 states any confirmed interference to existing wells resulting from the development would be the sole responsibility of the developer to address. It also states that solutions be acceptable for impacted residents. I would like clarification. How is interference to a well confirmed? How do we prove it's because of the development? To whom are these solutions acceptable? The resident, the developer? If we encounter a water issue, how do we get the issue corrected? What hoops will we have to jump through to get the problem fixed? And how long will it take? What short-term solutions will be provided to the residents while the issue is addressed? And who will pay for this? I'd like to ask a question. How long would any member of council accept being without water? And I oppose granting the variance to the height bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Just for those who haven't been here before, open forum is your chance to have your say. And later on in the agenda, when we get to that item, then there'll be a debate amongst council, and I'm sure some of your questions will be addressed at that time. Next is Carol Griffith, and it's on the same item, item C2.
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Council. Along with any correspondence in opposition of this amendment, I too stand with fellow residents. With saying that, I'm a resident who was not contacted regarding this meeting. I found out by receiving the upcoming meeting agenda as a subscriber. I'm sure if it was not properly informed, there could be year-round and seasonal residents who are unaware of the meeting we are part of this evening. Moving forward, I hope this oversight can be rectified. I'm sure you're aware we understand growth is coming, yet it should not be permitted, with staff suggesting, in this case, our bylaws being put aside for this development by developers. Simply put, this is an example of urban sprawl. Concerns of residents have not changed since I initiated involvement 20 years ago with the developer seeking to build on 1015 Cumberland Avenue. What has changed is the provincial government's stance on growth, the power the Conservation Authority once held, and how easy it has become for the government to overthrow council decisions on such developments, ignoring issues and protections laid out in bylaws. Others will discuss in detail all the issues and discrepancies with this proposal. So to lessen repeating, I'll close by saying, regardless of the upcoming municipal election, which will ultimately be your concern in October, I am hoping a strong message will come from this council that you are opposed whether Ballymore takes it higher or not. The recommendation go back to staff that you're not in the position to ignore bylaws or protections for an individual or developer. In any government, sometimes those who represent us forget the sole purpose to seek office. That is to represent the constituents. I would hope council does a recorded vote on this matter. It is, in my opinion, if this development was to go to higher government, I'd rather see that it was not from lack of trying by the residents or those on council who represent us. It's worth the risk rather than rolling over and saying what will be will be. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Griffith. Next on the list is Mary Lou Mulholland. And I just want to thank everybody for being so succinct. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Mayor Dolan, Deputy Mayor and Council. I really can't believe that we're here again. We have discussed this matter before. The last time we all stood here, all our neighbors, they basically said, I put it to council and I said, we know what's going to happen here. They're going for 21 houses. It's going to get turned down. They're going to come back at 16. And that's exactly what happened. 16 is still over any bylaw. It's the county of Simcoe. There's planning from the province and our place and our shores. We have set these bylaws in place for a reason, and it's because future development is coming. I think if the planning department and council give in to this builder right now, you are setting a very dangerous example for any future development. We are in an infill area. There's lots of land where there's going to be small developments. If you don't put the services in now and you let this one come in without putting the services in, you are setting a very sad example for anything in the future, because you're just giving carte blanche to anybody that comes. They can do whatever they want. They'll just keep putting it up and bringing their lawyers and whoever they have. Rules are in place to protect the people that are here. We have to stop giving newcomers everything they want without coming to the residents and looking after us. It's in our best interest to do that. And that's all I have to say. We want to be represented. People came down, and councillors came down, they walked around, they can see these houses don't fit. We raised our family here, we've been here for 38 years. I was member of many different committees. I won the Red Heart Award for my community input. I'm part of this community, and I think I should have a say, and I think everyone should have a say in what goes on. It's being totally ignored, what we want. It's just so hard to understand how you can put all the rules aside for people that are coming here. We need to set examples. We need to set standards. You can't just let them come and walk all over us. That's all I have to say. We need to be represented better. Councillors came down, they looked around, they saw how big these houses are going to be and how it's not going to fit in to the thing. We raised our family here. My son is still here with his family. He's looking to buy a home. He will never be able to afford one of these houses. I don't know why they couldn't come back with like maybe bungalows or something that is in demand. And none of us have basements. Hardly any of us in the area have basements. So it's not the planning department's job. It's not part of their job description to be sympathetic to these builders and people that aren't even living here yet, to give them more square footage because they can't have a basement. When we built our house, it didn't have a basement. We weren't allowed to make it lot to lot size. We weren't allowed to make it 12.6 meters high. And 12.6 meters is not just to the eaves trough, or not to the tip of the thing, it's to the eaves trough, it's to the plane. If you want to see how big one of these houses are going to be, just go by what is built next to me and you will see how it dominates the area, and that's what's going to happen. They don't fit in, it's not in keeping with what we want, and it goes against at least 4 or 5 of your bylaws that are in place to protect us. So I think you're sending a very, very bad message. That's it.
Thank you. And next we have Rick. So Rick Mulholland, please. Okay. Next we have, is it Ian Andrews?
Thank you. My name is Ian Andrews, and I live at 1048 Whisker. I worked at Sandy Cove Acres from 95 to 2013, and in that time, I was part of the well disruption that was caused by the Rice Group, stripping land and installing infrastructure on a property located at Lockhart, 25th Side Road, soon to be named Avalon. Sales office, 3 model homes were built, and I was sent to run a large diesel pump day in and day out. Residents claimed that their wells were empty, and eventually the news crew showed up. Town got involved and everything stopped. I went from pumping water to delivering water to over a dozen homes, supplying 3 to 5 5-gallon water bottles per house for months. Anger was directed at us as they could not wash clothes, have a shower, or run a tap. Over time, large water tanks were installed, water trucks delivering on a routine basis for a very long time. Drillers were brought in after about a year to replace these wells at the developer's expense. Town knows this, and they have records on this. Since the first hydraulic test that was taken by Cambion, I've received high increase of iron sediment in my toilets, which we never had before. What's going to happen when 16 wells get put in? I requested well monitoring, but I have no evidence that this had happened. One neighbor received a letter after a test was given with results, and I did not get one. It states that they're construction wells to be monitored and problems resolved by the developer. Why even risk this? I implore that the town uphold the full services bylaw and prevent history from repeating itself and preventing the undue burden on surrounding residents. This is only one point I can make in a short time. I request that council grant us a new meeting in the summer months for winter absent residents to prepare to be present along with the concerned residents you see here today. Please stand behind us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Andrews. Next on the list is Louise Andrews.
Hi there, Louise Andrews, 1048 Whisker. Along with the well issues, which is obviously a big concern for all the residents, we also have concerns about the water in general. That I implore any of you to come to our properties in the springtime, especially this year after this winter melt. That bush is swamp. There is a lot of water there. All of our backyards along there are wet all spring. The new plans show that the property is getting built up, the property level is getting built up. Therefore, where's all the water drainage going? The original plan had an easement and a retention pond. This new plan does not have an easement anymore. So how is the water draining? Where is the water going from these properties? I have a feeling it's going to be coming into my backyard and no longer, dealing with a spring issue. I'm going to be dealing with a year-round issue of flooding and water retention in my backyard. I'm also concerned about the heights of these new homes that are designed. I don't understand the purpose of that third floor. To me, the third floor is for the buyers to look at your view to the lake while you can peer into these people's backyards, because there is no other homes that are going to be that tall backing onto our properties. All that is there is a deck, a large oversized deck, rooftop deck, and a utility room. Why do you need a third floor on these properties? That's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Ms. Andrews. Next is Victor Jesus on the same item.
So my name is Victor Jesus, 1038 Whisker Avenue. I'm going to go over a couple of proposals that they have. I'll just read a couple of lines that they have in their paperwork. The increase in height is proposed to accommodate the higher groundwater table in the property, which requires the ground level to be raised to accommodate the dwelling units. Obviously, same thing. If they raise their soil up, more water is going to come to our side. I don't know what kind of drainage system they have set up for all this, but my big concern is that the back end of my house gets flooded because they raised it up. My house is on the other side. It was built on that level. It's almost same level as the back. I don't understand why they would need something that's 3.6 meters higher than what the standard would be. Seems kind of insane to me. They also say here that the request of 12.6 height is intended to apply across the entire subdivision to provide design flexibility and reflect a worst case scenario given to the site's grading and groundwater challenge. Then they go on towards the end of that and they say additional design refinements will continue to be explored to further reduce overall heights where possible through the detailed design stage. Okay, no problem. So they're going to do everything possible to reduce that. So when I go on the house that they designed, they have first floor, 10 feet, 11 inches, almost 12 feet high. Second floor, 9.1. Third floor, as she mentioned, it's literally just a balcony. How is it that we can add 3.6 meters? This thing is an absolute monster. So between that and obviously lifting the soil, which is insane to me. I live there. I understand what everybody is saying about that. And then also saying that their property is, they're proposing instead of 35%, which is standard zone for coverage, they're proposing 42. If you can't do it in 35%, you can't do 16 lots, do 12, do 10. These are the standards that we're asking for. I'm not trying to say they shouldn't build. I understand. I do have a concern about the well as well. But if they can't meet the standards that you guys set in place, which I agree with, don't build. Water table's too high, don't build. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Jesus. Next on the list is Tracy Goodwin.
Okay, gotta pull this up. Okay, Tracy Goodwin. I have 2 comments, questions, and 1 suggestion to fit in my 2 minutes. First one is regarding the Hydro-G peer review. As you can see in the staff report, there are recommendations from the peer review consultant. I'm not going to read them since they are outlined on page 14 of the report. My question is, will the applicant be required to provide financial assurance to deal with any potential well interference concerns? Second comment has to deal with stormwater management, my fave. The Functional Servicing and Stormwater Management Report dated December 2025 on page 20 indicates that stormwater management will be provided using LID measures, which I like, on residential lots. It goes on to state that LID measures provide reduction of runoff and provide infiltration at the source. Question: was it taken into account that homeowners can hardscape, such as putting in large concrete patios or installing pools and reduce the pervious surface? Will the town consider putting something on title? The town should ensure that new developments do not add to the current load we are depositing into the lake. Instead, we should be decreasing it. In closing, in my opinion, you do not have NIMBY here. I believe you have a community that understands homes are going to be built, but want it done responsibly and through a transparent process involving them. I suggest the council have another public meeting so all those involved, applicant, town, and community, can have those additional conversations to work together and land on a project all parties can be comfortable with. My dad told me when he was younger that the train used to use this property to bring people from Toronto. Continue with that spirit and bring people together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Goodwin. Next on the list is Kevin Griffith.
Kevin Griffith, 1009 Cumberland Street. I have a house with unfinished basement and is located next to the planned flood storage block. The report states that developers lot grading plan to accommodate for the high water table of the property. My sump pump is very effective at removing excess water away from the foundation during this winter and spring thaw and storm events. I've yet to experience flooding, pooling, or dampness in my basement. I am fearful that the proximity to the flood storage block will literally open the floodgates to my home, and here is how. The water table influence of retention pond can extend significantly beyond the pond's edge, depending on the soil type and rainfall. There needs to be a substantial buffer in distance between the house and pond. If a basement is near the flood storage block, a high-capacity pump will be the requirement process for the additional water. Sewer backup may occur when the retention pond is overwhelmed. Flooding is the most direct risk, but even water that is soaked into the ground can undermine the basement of the house's foundation. Given the outstanding flooding and drainage concerns for mine and my surrounding neighborhood properties, I'm requesting another public meeting or the full access to the Functional Servicing and Stormwater Management Report, clarification on the lid measures and residential lots, detailed drawings of the flood and restoration block, along with monitoring and maintenance assurances. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Griffith. Then we are going to page 2, and we have Igor Popov, please. Welcome.
Good evening. My name is Igor Popov. I live on 1006 Isabella, and almost everything everybody told everything about that. My main concern is the water, and I don't know, for example, if in 5 years after that construction, I have no water, my well is gone, and I have no access from a street to backyard, how it will be done technically. With all my respect to company who did that assessment, pumping and everything. But what is liability? Any like insurance? Who will pay for that if it's happened in a 3 year or 5 years? It's a number one concern for me. And what I'm thinking is municipal water is only solution on that particular question. But I can live with traffic, I can live with something different, but if no water, what we will do? It's only one way, take a bucket, go to lake and bring it home. It's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now I'm going back to the start of the list because we did get a message that Mr. Mangla is not here, but he said that Sheikh Abdul Hadid would be here and would speak on his behalf. Mr. Hadi?
Respected Mayor Dolan and esteemed council members, we wish to express our sincere appreciation to respected Mayor Dolan and the esteemed council. Respectfully, we submit a few comments on the staff report for council consideration. The staff report notes that AMJ is currently not exempt from the property taxes, and as a result, may not qualify for exemption for parkland dedication requirements under the draft bylaw. We respectfully clarify that AMJ has formally submitted an application to MPAC seeking confirmation of property tax exemption status, consistent with the treatment of several other AMJ properties that qualify for such exemption. AMJ is a duly registered charity under common law and the Canada Revenue Agency, CRA. And all necessary documents to this effect have already been provided to the staff. In this context, and in alignment with the final paragraph on page 3 of the staff report, we respectfully submit that the draft amendment bylaw should expressly include the additional reference regarding religious registered charity organizations, replacing the Assessment Act to encompass organizations that are recognized as religious charity organizations under common law and CRA. This clarification would ensure fairness, consistency, and alignment with the broader legislative intent. We thank respected Mayor Dolan and esteemed council members for their continued consideration and thoughtful review of this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hadi. That concludes, I believe, everyone who signed up for open forum, so thank you so much for being here. We'll now move to the approval of the agenda. Before that, I'll ask if the clerk's office has an extra pen because I have no more ink. Thank you. Oh, thanks, Linda. So now we'll go to approval of the agenda, and that was the agenda that was printed 1 week ago and put online. We have had an additional delegation added, and I'll ask for a mover and a seconder, please. Moved by Deputy Fowler, seconded by Councillor Ices. All those in favor? That is carried. Next, I'll ask if there's a disclosure of interest, pecuniary or conflict of interest on any item on tonight's agenda. I'm seeing none, but if one becomes apparent to you during our discussion, please let it be known at that time. Next is item 5, which is presentations and petitions. Our first presentation tonight is from an engineer's report for the Hughes Drain Improvement, and we would presented by Edison Peel of R.J. Burnside and Associates. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. I'm Edison Peel, an engineer with R.J. Burnside. With me tonight is an engineer in training, Max Chang. I trust everyone has had an opportunity to review the report, so I'll try to be as brief as possible. The Hughes Drain was originally constructed in 1964. The drain services approximately 340 acres. The existing drain is 1.5 kilometers of open ditch. The drain outlets into a tributary of the South Innisfil Creek drain in the Nottawasaga Valley watershed. Burnside was appointed in January of 2024 for an improvement to the Hughes Drain just south of Fennell. This project was initiated by a request for improvement from Simcoe County due to the proposed road expansion of Yonge Street. An initial on-site meeting was held in August of 2024, and an information meeting was held in September of 2025. As a result of the meetings, it was determined the primary purpose of the report is to provide an updated design to accommodate the road expansion and provide a deeper outlet for the agricultural properties. The proposed work includes 250 meters of channel construction, 1,200 meters of channel deepening, the replacement of 3 access culverts, the installation of erosion protection, and minor tree and brush removal. The cost estimate includes $170,000 in construction, $70,000 in allowances to landowners, $85,000 in engineering, and $25,000 in other costs, including permitting, HST, and interest, for a total estimated project cost of $350,000. We're anticipating a grant of approximately $90,000 through OMAFRA for farm tax class properties. The Town of Innisfil Drainage Superintendent Jeremy Ninehouse has been consulted throughout the project, and a permit for the proposed work has been provided by Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority. Following this meeting, there is a process and timeline for appeals from landowners. The deadline for Court of Revision appeals is March 30th. The Court of Revision will be held April 8th. The court will be made up of counselors and has the discretion to modify assessments only. The deadline for appeals to the Ontario Drainage Tribunal is April 20th. The tribunal has the authority to modify any part of the report, including allowances, assessment, and design. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Peel. Just on your map there, it says Fennell. It's Fennell's Corners, but that's okay. Yeah. Questions or comments from members of council? Councillor Drodge.
Thanks, Your Worship. Thanks for the presentation. I just want all the residents to know that this falls solely in my ward. So if you do have any extra questions or concerns, by all means, reach out to me directly, and I can pass that along to staff, and we can sort any issues you may have. So I appreciate the presentation, but I'll take it from here if they have any more concerns, and I'll pass it along. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Drodge. Anyone else have any questions or comments on this item? So just one, that this is the first of a few drain reports we're going to see over the next little while, I would imagine, or at least the beginning of a few others that we're going to have to see. And I just wanted to thank Mr. Ninehouse for all of his hard work coming to the conclusion of one of the larger projects that we've had at least in my time here, and now looking after the smaller pieces to make sure that everything is in ship shape for our community. So thank you for that. So now I would just ask if there's going to be any questions under the item C1, that we ask them at this point, just so then these gentlemen don't have to wait, but I'm seeing no more comments. So with that, I would ask for a recommendation, please, be moved and seconded, moved by Councillor Drodge and seconded by Councillor Zanella, that the presentation of the engineer's report for the Hughes Drain Improvement be received. Thank you so much. All in favor? Thank you. Our next delegation is from Mr. Peter Kubas. Mr. Kubas, whenever you're ready, please come up to the podium. Thank you.
Okay, I'm a resident of Churchill down the road, and this has to do with the snow removal at our community mailboxes. Okay, here's an example of what's going on over here. We've got a lot of snow that's been up here for the duration of the winter. It's very deep, very uneven as well. And of course, access is really difficult. In fact, it's dangerous. The thing is that the snow blocks, anybody from getting in there. And it's very slippery and unstable. Risk of slips, falls, injury. I mean, obviously, it's a safety hazard. So it's an ongoing safety risk. The other thing, too, is that our mail's not going to be delivered under the circumstances. I've been in touch with the post office in Lefroy. I've talked to them. I've talked to the postmaster and even the people that are delivering the mail. And what they've said is that they can't deliver mail under these circumstances. So, I mean, really, I've been in touch before, and what I'm getting is really the runaround for the most part. Okay, it's really the town's responsibility to clear this, but they say it isn't. I don't understand why. It's pretty obvious. I've had excuses like there's grass in front of the boxes. We can't go over the grass. They say it's the responsibility of the post office. It's not. The post office is responsible for the cleaning of the sidewalk, which is done by the sidewalk plow. But from the sidewalk to the curb is not their responsibility. So we're sort of left in limbo. We can't get our mail. It's a hazard. I can't climb, well, you saw the pictures. I mean, they're huge. Alternatively, if you go up the road on the 4th line, which is where the Montessori school is, it's property that's been leased to the school. It used to be the public library. Well, as a result of it being town property, what happens is the town actually plows that area so the residents in that part of the community can get to the mailboxes. So, we're kind of screwed, and they're not. Now, there is an option over here, too, that in our subdivision, which is the newest one, been there for 34 years, if you go up on Gimby Crescent, where there's a park area, there's also a parking lot. The parking lot is actually it's plowed and salted. It's clean as a whistle. So if you can do it on the 4th line, if the mailboxes can be moved up to that location, the problem's gone. If not, the town has to take some responsibility for creating a path to get to our mailboxes. So, any thoughts? I mean, it's pretty obvious. You got a safety hazard here.
Thank you, Mr. Kubas.
There's one other point, too. They also say that what you have to do is, if you can't get access directly from going up there, you have to go to the sidewalk, which is, the access is right over by Yonge Street. Well, if you do something like that, the problem is that you run the risk, especially at night, when you're right by Yonge Street, the cars are coming down, southbound on Yonge, turning onto Meadowland Street, there's risk that somebody could be hurt. They could be hit by a car. So there's a lot of reasons that, it's a simple solution. Just plow the snow away. So what I'd like to know is how long before somebody makes a decision, because I'm on this for a long time now. Any idea how long it's going to take?
Thank you. Are you done your delegation? And we'll go to questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Kubas.
Thank you.
Questions for Mr. No, you can stay and ask or answer questions if you don't mind. Questions or comments for Mr. Kubas?
I'm sorry?
We'll ask, so this is the opportunity for council to ask you questions.
Oh, sure.
And then we can also go to our staff as well. Any questions or comments from council? Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Member. To our staff, who is responsible for clearing the mailboxes like that? And who would be, what would be the process to have those boxes moved, like the gentleman's asking? Do we know those answers? Thanks.
Director Bowman.
Through your worship to Councillor Saunders. So Canada Post is ultimately responsible for their Canada Post boxes. In the first image that Mr. Kubas showed, that image is taken from the road, and you're seeing the snowbank at the side of the road. Behind that snowbank, before you see the mailbox, there's actually a sidewalk. The sidewalk has been cleared, as the speakers indicated. And Canada Post is then responsible for clearing any snow that's between the sidewalk and the box itself. So when approached from the sidewalk, that set of boxes is accessible. Canada Post does have a variety of location types, and we have in past worked with them to place those boxes where they have approached us in some of our parking lots. Naturally, the town is clearing the parking lots as that's part of our responsibility, but even in those scenarios, Canada Post is going in and clearing in front of those mailboxes. Town staff are not shoveling the immediate snow in front for access. If the boxes were to be moved, that would be at the request of Canada Post.
Well, they say it's not the responsibility. It's the responsibility of the town is what their position is. They've gone down this road before. So this is where there's some confusion.
So we can clarify that for you, for sure, Mr. Kubas, but our understanding is that they clear between the sidewalk and the box.
Yes.
But they don't clear the boulevard between the sidewalk and the road. That is
That's
not
right.
their responsibility. And that's not a level of service that we do either. Like, I guess my first question to you is your mail getting delivered?
Yes, it is when they have access.
So they have access, so they can stand on the sidewalk and access the
When they can
The
get
box?
access to the sidewalk, because as I explained, right at the corner of Yonge and Meadowland, the snow plow that's doing the sidewalks is often not very good. And there's mounds of snow there that they can't get through, so they've been instructed not to deliver the mail. The other thing too is that these mounds of snow, which are literally this high, are a result of the plow that's doing the streets. So, I mean, it's a simple solution. Just create a path. You got the plows that's doing the sidewalks. It's really simple. Just remove that 4-foot width of area so that we can get our mail safely.
Thank you, Mr.
Simple
Kubas.
solution, isn't it?
Thank you. Councillor Richardson.
I was just curious because I know that the mail falls under the federal government. Have you reached out to the local MP John Broussard, about this?
I'm sorry, they've reached out to the MP?
Have you? Yeah, because
No.
mail falls under the federal government.
No, I've been told that it's the town's responsibility. Okay. So, I mean, something's got to be done because I'm at my wit's end. To be honest with you, if something's not done, I have to contact the ombudsman because I'm tired of it. I really am. I'm going through this. I get all the excuses. I go over there. I've now had 2 complaints where they've responded, but other ones that it just falls on deaf ears. And it's the same thing. It's not the town's responsibility. Yes, it is. You made the mess, clean the mess.
Mr. Kubas, we all know how much snow we've had this year, and we all experience those kinds of drifts. We absolutely experience that. I'm going to ask
This year's been a banner year, okay? But other times we have like 3-4 feet of snow.
Sir, can I ask, Councillor Dodge has his hand up. Can I ask him, please, to speak?
Thanks, Your Worship. So I'm looking at a street view right now of where those mailboxes are, and to the east of it, it looks like it's about 40 feet. There looks like there's a paved area coming off the road to the sidewalk.
Yes.
My question to ops, do they clear that from the roadway to the sidewalk?
Sometimes.
Director Bowman?
Through your worship to Councillor Drudge, that's an access laneway to the water property that's there, in services property. I don't believe it's always maintained. It's maintained, I think, at their discretion. Not far down from that is the access to the sidewalk that is maintained. But I do understand the tension that exists between the road plows and the sidewalk plows. Often both are making multiple passes in order to move that snow away. Ultimately, we've been in touch with Canada Post as well, and they have their own policies about their mail deliverers, and they are required to not cross those snowbanks. They must go around to the nearest sidewalk access point to make their deliveries to those boxes. They have a service standard that they will clear that area in front of those boxes at 5 centimeters of snow, and possibly up to 24 hours after a snow event happens. So they also have standards and policies that they're following, as well as us.
I appreciate that. Just one follow-up question. So to have a curb and grass and go to a sidewalk, even if you cleared it, I would still say that's a hazard, in my opinion. The paved section that you're saying is for in-services. It doesn't look like it's very big. Is there some sort of an avenue there where we could discuss maybe just clearing that, since it is a paved walking service and it is relatively close to those mailboxes? It would prevent them from going all the way to Yonge Street. Would that maybe be a solution we could look into?
I'm just looking for an opening about 4 or 5 feet wide so I can get my mail. Because another thing too is if you go down to the end of Meadowland Street and you have to walk all that distance to get to the mailboxes, it's going to take you 10, 15 minutes anyways to get there and then back. And furthermore, the servicing of the sidewalks in our community is not very good. If you look at it right now, there's still snow. It's not salted. It's a slip hazard. I'm 73. My neighbor beside me is 80. On the other side, she's 74. Beside them, he's 75. I'm too old for this stuff. I'm asking for just a simple plow that one area on a regular basis.
And I understand it
I'm sure
seems
you do, 'cause I've
very,
been in touch with
very,
you, you know that.
very simple to you. The issue is, it's not just about one mailbox. If we set a standard, it's about, I don't know how many we have, dozens, hundreds, and it's about all of them. So when we set a standard, we have to set it for everybody. We just can't set it for one spot. So that's why it's a bit of a bigger discussion about level of service that we provide to all of our residents, to be fair.
Okay, well, first of all, then it's a safety hazard for everybody. But if you talk to the people at the Lefroy mailbox, the worst area, the only area that poses this problem is ours on Meadowland Street. I've talked to the postmaster. I've talked to the manager at the post office. They're all saying the same thing. The letter carrier, they're saying, yours is the worst. Yours is the only one we have a problem with. So that doesn't work.
Thank you.
It's not the case.
Thank you, Mr. Kubas. So any other comments or questions from members of council? Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Worship, and thank you for your presentation. I guess I had a question, and it's not specific to this circumstance, but I think it's similar. I had some resident of Innisfil Beach Road reach out to me about the sidewalk or the walking trail along Innisfil Beach Road. And I think with the amount of snow we had this winter, this is a common problem where you've got the snow plow pushing snow on the sidewalk, and then the sidewalk plow has to push it back. And so there's this constant conflict moving this snow out of the way. So at some point, operations, I think, would make a decision to help that situation, move the snow that we're pushing back and forth. And it's not a special service exemption. I'm wondering if Director Bowman can maybe talk about those instances where it doesn't make sense to just push it back and forth, and what do we do from an operation standard to improve efficiencies around snow removal?
Director Bowman?
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to Councillor Ices. Every snowfall, every event, and every location can differ. Those circumstances really dictate how our people and equipment is deployed. We have done, and I think you might be alluding to, a load and haul operation where we actually do go in and load up and truck out excess of snow that can't naturally be moved off into a right-of-way. But more often than not, when we're in that tension, we do, through multiple passes, are able to clear access points. And we're able to do that usually with our equipment and fairly standard procedure.
So there are instances when we make exceptions without changing service levels across the town, I guess is what I'm getting at. And as I'm looking at the same picture that Councillor Drodge has, and for the sidewalk plow they can't remove the snow to the north because the mailboxes are in the way, so they have to move it towards the road. So we're in this spot where we're not being very efficient with how we remove the snow. So would a periodic removal of that bank in this situation solve some of the problems? That they wouldn't have to do it every single time it snows, but as you accumulate that height, similar to in other circumstances where the snow is just going back and forth, we intervene and make a judgment call on this and not increase the service level expectation.
Director Bowman?
Thank you, and through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Ices. It wouldn't be staff's recommendation to do a load and haul, if I'm understanding your comment correctly, from the road to the sidewalk directly opposite that post box, because there is no sidewalk to curb pavement or sidewalk surface there. So not only could we could not consistently keep a clear access from the road to the sidewalk where there is none built, it would be neither safe nor regularly maintained enough to ensure that it would be safe for pedestrians to use.
Hold on, there's only about 4 or 5 feet of grass between the sidewalk and the curb. I mean, it's like nothing.
Director Bowman, I understand that you can't plow the grass with the snowplow. What about that in-services access point 40 feet up the road? Would that be a possibility?
Thanks, Your Worship, and I can confirm that in-services does regularly clear that path. However, that is an important access way for their facility, and I wouldn't want to commit their points of access to municipal use. Not far from there is the access to our sidewalk, which I would rather take a more focused look at if the community is concerned that entry to the sidewalk is not being adequately cleared. That's something my staff need to look at and ensure is maintained for pedestrian access. Yes, I think I'll leave my comment there.
You know, I have another option for you here. If the grass is an issue, okay, which to me is ludicrous. I mean, a person's safety versus damaging some grass. I worked construction all my life, okay? Dealt with engineers and all sorts of different people. Remove the grass, put down some concrete in that area between the sidewalk to the curb. No big deal.
Councillor
Okay,
Drodge?
that's a simple, just, the forming is simple, and it's only got to be this wide.
Councillor Drodge?
Thanks, Your Worship. So along the similar lines to Mr. Kubas, maybe not setting that precedence in front of the mailbox, but maybe we can look at a location for another access point to that sidewalk via not so close to Yonge Street. I'm not sure what would be entailed there, but maybe that's a conversation we should be having where it's a more centralized location for us to place a sidewalk
Then,
access
Ann,
point.
could you just put that last slide that I didn't show yet?
I think our 10 minutes is up, Mr. Kubis, but I'm going to
Okay,
ask
what I'm going to
staff
show you,
if
though,
they
is,
have
just so you
any.
know, the parking lot, okay, that is on Gimby Park is plowed all the time. I've seen the pickup truck go with the plow. He's got a salter as well, too. There is no ice, there's no salt at all. It is an absolute replica of what we have on the 4th line. It is so well maintained, the issue goes away. So the only cost then would be to move the mailboxes up to that parking lot. Problem solved. I don't mind going up there to get my mail.
So if you're asking for your parking or the boxes to be moved, that would be addressed to Canada Post. Not,
That is-
the
their
town of
position is
Innisfil doesn't.
It's not, that's not their position. They're saying it's the town's responsibility. And you know, quite frankly, when the town actually did everything to plan this, okay, there's a concrete bed right there that the mailboxes are on. They're the ones that decided this is the location. Post office didn't do that, the town did that.
I don't want to carry on with this all night, but could we quickly, through to Director of Planning and Growth, talk quickly how we locate Canada Post boxes in Innisfil, just quickly? Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. So when developments are being reviewed by town staff, they have consultations with Canada Post in terms of the locations within subdivisions where the community mailboxes are being identified. Canada Post then has standards that the developer has to follow in implementing those, but the locations of those are determined by Canada Post.
Well, the thing is, I'm still stuck. You know, it's going back and forth, town, post, time, post. I mean, our little community with the houses, if there's 50 there, we pay in excess of $300,000 a year in property taxes. And the level of service we get, it's not $300,000 worth. I'm asking for a simple solution to a major problem.
Councillor Drodge.
It's a safety issue here.
Thanks, Your
Safety
Worship.
first.
Mr. Kubas, this is not going to get solved tonight, and I'm your ward councillor, so can we have a discussion maybe tomorrow? I'd like to meet you, and I just want to have, I want to be the mediator between you and staff. Let's leave it at that, and
sure,
I'll work with you through everything, and if it is staff's responsibility to move a mailbox, if that's the decision, so be it. If it ends up being that it is Canada Post, well, that will also be a solution, but I will work with you. It's obviously not going to get solved tonight, so I will contact you directly, if that's all right.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Councillor Drodge. Thank you, Mr. Kubas.
Okay, thank you all.
I now have a recommendation that the delegation regarding snow removal at curbside of community mailboxes be received. Moved by Councillor Drodge, seconded by Councillor Constantine. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Now we'll move on to item 6.2. Mr. Rod Hicks in regards to DSR-20-26. Welcome, Mr. Hicks.
Good evening. Just before you hit the timer, it's sad for me, Lynn, you and I, Mayor, we both served on the Police Services Board to see that you once again have to ask the province to fund the court security. I can't believe after all these years, that's still there. So good luck. Maybe someone will listen because it's about time. Okay.
And before I start the clock, I'll say to you, Mr. Hicks, thank you for putting my chair back up from the Committee of the Whole meeting the other night.
I intentionally didn't adjust it. Just for the people, I sit in that chair during one of the committee meetings and I will lower it down, but I didn't adjust it because Lynn, the mayor always has to come in and bring it back up. So I didn't want you to be down like this. So anyhow, I'm doing a conscious effort on that. Okay, I got my timer going. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and Councillors. We are here tonight to object to the proposal before you tonight because it is our opinion town staff have failed to recognize our valid concerns that we brought forward. As a community, we extend our appreciation to the numerous members of council who took time to view the site and the surrounding neighborhood to understand our concerns. Thank you. I plan to show you now items that were in the reports last year and have been omitted by the developer and staff or ignored our concerns. Wells, reports by a Cambrian for Ballymore states that people with shallow wells will need to deepen their wells to maintain water, and the new homes will need water storage. Last year, a representative came around asking residents who would like their wells monitored. Many signed up, they did not show up to monitor, and according to some residents, no follow-up letters were sent. This year, only 2 people signed up as a lack of trust is evident that the test would be done. However, one of the 2 is immediately adjacent to where the new well heard, and you heard from Fred tonight about their well water, and it went dry, so I won't beat that one up. The developer is planning 16 wells in the lower aquifer, and in their own report last year, they indicated that the new homes may need cisterns to maintain a supply of water. This current plan calls for 16 homes on an average that equals 64 bedrooms and 48 bathrooms. Think about the water demand on the supply, notwithstanding the summer use of water for lawns, washing cars, and with the chance of extended families, there could be more rooms converted to bedrooms. This current report suggests that the developer be required to provide constant water monitoring during the development. Who will be responsible if we run out of water now? The onus will be on us to fight with the developer to rectify the water problem. Excuse me. Will the developer be required to provide bonds and a letter of credit to deal with any well failures, and will the town act on our behalf to remediate a failed well? The developer should be responsible for a minimum of 5 years after the last home is sold. And as you have heard, the failure of neighboring wells near the Avalon project, no water in wells can take many months to rectify. Mayor, you are the longest standing member on this council. That's a good thing, and it gives you some years' experience. But you remember Sandy Cove and the Avalon, and I remember speaking before you bringing that up. We do not want to be those people that are without water, if it should happen, for many months on hand. Yeah, we can go across the lake and get a bucket of water, but that's not going to go far. Drainage, we made it abundantly clear that we have surface water issues coming from this property and have requested an easement so the town can monitor and take control of it with a drainage ditch to the retention pond. There is no mention in this report tonight. Tonight, we understand after the clear cut, they will dig and fill with appropriate materials to provide the raised bed base for a raised slab on grade, and concerns about runoff we believe, is not covered effectively. There is mention of a stormwater report, but this was not provided to us to review. There is concerns about the retention pond, who is responsible for the prevention of mosquitoes and their diseases in the stagnant water. As you heard tonight from Kevin, the resident directly east of this pond may be impacted by the accumulated water in the pond. He is literally right beside that proposed retention pond. In the pond to his current sump pump frequency as water seeps through to the groundwater. The report by staff suggests that they recommended bioswales. They have proven to be ineffective in Guildford. I believe Councillor Drodge can attest to their failure and the flooding that is happening with the infill development in Guildford. Why would they be suggesting to do this in this development? I understand from the people that built the subdivision in question with the bioswales in Guildford were told by the town the swells failed and they wanted them to replace them 10 years after they'd finished building. Parking. It's nice they did a traffic study. We saw the little sensor up there on the pole counting traffic, but it did not include the influx of fisher persons parking to access the pier on Isabella or launching a boat into the lake and then parking their vehicles and trailers on Emily and some on Whisker. Now we have large homes with 2 parking spots and no room for extended families in their vehicles. Will the town invoke a new bylaw defining softscape versus hardscape to prevent interlocking stone on their front lawns, which apparently is softscape, which we understand they could park more vehicles? Last year, a report also suggested installing services for future ADUs, but no mention in the current report, and again, water runoff will be of concern. We are dumbfounded conservation is silent on the lifting of the floodplain overlay. For many of us, when we built, we had to adhere to their requirements with restrictions due to the flood. Now, all of a sudden, the risk of flood has disappeared. We understand the provincial government has restricted conservation. However, the floodplain that has been on the map for a very long time doesn't just go away. The wildlife report suggests no signs of wildlife were seen. We have a resident fox that last year brought her kits into a neighbor's backyard. We have an ample supply of rabbits, raccoons, skunks, and squirrels. In the spring, we are serenaded by the robust frog population, telling that it is now spring. This forest is also part of a migratory bird path, and their sounds are enjoyed in the spring and the fall. Legislation indicates no clearing of vegetation regarding migratory bird path from April 1st to August 31st. I know for a fact that the town enforced that when a family was trying to build a compound of 3 family homes on Pine Avenue, and they were restricted because of the migratory bird path. There is trilliums in the forest, which is under provincial protection, at least last I knew it was. Last year, grading was done to access the site for the new well they just put in, and they plowed over a patch of trilliums. There are other trilliums in the forest. Privacy, the contractor is suggesting a 7-meter setback of the backyards, and it might be 7.5 meters, so that they'll give us privacy, and they may or may not install bushes or fences, but no confirmed commitment. The house design being provided shows a very large second floor deck, and on the 3rd floor is a 40-foot terrace, which I believe the square foot was 569 square feet. What happened to recognizing our privacy issues? The contractor is suggesting to infill the houses will be a slab on a raised bed. There's a number of us that are a slab on grade and did not increase the infill to make the house higher. Excuse me. We are exactly an example of slab on grade. Our concerns of flooding are real time. My neighbor has a moat around his garage when the snow thaws and when we experience rainfall, all coming from the subject property. And we request that restrictions of pools in this development due to the fact is where does the water go when they drain the pools down? We don't see anywhere in the report where ditches will be installed. Currently, there is no ditches on Emily Avenue. Does this mean the spillover of stormwater will run down the street, exacerbating the flooding of low-lying properties that we currently have on Emily? Building height. You are aware how staff measure the height of a building, and these homes meet the requirement. However, through clever design, the 565-foot terrace, 3rd floor, is incorporated into the roof designs, mitigating the height restrictions. Something I learned. As you know, I deal with variances all the time, but because they put it in the roof line, that's not counted in the height. The actual height of the peak of these houses that staff don't take into account, and I'm not knocking them because it's the way they measure, is 50 feet. And the terrace will look over our properties and houses. A majority of homes on Whisker, the abutting property, is approximately 30 feet to peak. This design dwarfs homes on Emily Street and are mostly bungalows. There will be no privacy in our properties. Also, our home gables face east and west. The proposed houses' roofs run north and south, creating a visual massing from the street and definitely from the view of the lake. All you'll see is huge roof lines at 50 feet. When we reference the Planning Act, a question it does this development fit into the current makeup of the neighborhood? A simple answer is no. Does the development respect the bylaws? The answer is no. It is also noted the developer will not install sidewalks because the neighborhood doesn't have them now, so why would we put them in? We believe they should be installed along with ditches to make it safe. We are a large dog walking community. If anyone going to be present during the dig, oh, sorry, I just rambled on there. Is anyone going to be present during the dig to watch for artifacts from this historical site, including those that may be from the Indigenous people? In the respect of your time, I will end with a few final points. Staff have indicated no further public meetings required. If council will approve the amendments to the bylaws and official plan to accommodate this proposal. Not sure why they would circumvent the laws in place to close the file. Lessons should have been learned by the problems with the Guildford development. The town's official plans with resident input sets down what is allowed for development and what is the purpose of the OP if the town keeps amending to suit developers. Also, bylaws are in place to protect the integrity of communities. And again, this proposal is looking to have exceptions by having council amend to suit their build. We are formally requesting the following. Order another public meeting that will have staff who are decision makers attend to receive and discuss our concerns. Hold a recorded vote tonight. This is the last year of the council and residents need to know how our elected officials have voted. Please maintain the integrity of the OP and bylaws. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Questions or comments for Mr. Hicks? Councillor Waters.
Thanks for the presentation. Very concise, well said. There was one question I do have in terms of conversation that was held with councillors at the site in terms of the location of the existing water system. In our discussion, you had mentioned there were 2 locations and the developer had chosen the one further away from the development. And so I was just wondering if you could address that, or did I mishear what you had mentioned? You said there was another spot that water was available that would have been cheaper to bring in as opposed to digging wells.
Oh, regarding town water?
Yes.
Yes, in the report, I found it interesting. I don't have to talk fast now. I can slow down. It reminds me, Mary, I think we were there when we picked the new chief, Andrew Fletcher, and reminded me of how fast he spoke at the end to do his finishing statement, and that was in my head when I came here tonight. Yes, the report refers to bring in municipal water. Clearly, they state 4.2 million to the cost of the residents is at Maple and the 5th line. It's interesting they picked the farthest away point because Ballymore brought water down to Pine Street in Clarny Beach. The water's right there. That's a kilometer away. The other one's several kilometers away. So it baffles me why that's in the report like that.
Since we do have representatives from in-service here, can I ask for any comments on the comment in terms of where the developer has quoted from in terms of what's actually short? I'm not too sure if you're prepared to answer any question, but since we do have them, and I'm glad they're here.
Yeah, so I think when we get to the staff report,
Okay, sure.
though, Councillor Waters would be the appropriate time to ask staff questions. Right now, we're here to ask Mr. Hicks questions. Any more? Deputy.
Thank you, Worship. I want to thank you for bringing up Avalon again. When I ran for Ward 5 and I went door knocking, I heard the horror stories when people's wells went dry for over a kilometer around. I understand the situation. Now, my memory not be 100% on this, but I do believe it took a class action lawsuit for the developer to actually put the tanks on people's properties. So the best laid plans of mice and men can go awry. So I'll be addressing that in the report later tonight when it gets pulled. But it's something that we have done in the past in Guildford and, out by Lockhart. So, I mean, this is something we need to address, and I agree, and I thank you for bringing it up. And I thank everybody for showing up tonight, too.
Thank you. If I just comment, I'm glad that my neighbor showed up because he worked at Sandy Cove. As you heard his testimony, he was the worker out there supplying the water. He was very present. And a lot of us have lived here and we know, and certainly the mayor, you guys had to deal with those challenges.
Thank you. Yes. Any other? Oh, Councillor Droch.
Thanks, Your Worship. Thank you so much, Mr. Hicks, for that presentation. Very informative, and thanks to all the rest of the residents that spoke in open forum. I heard everybody's voice there, so I appreciate everybody coming out there tonight and speaking the truth, in my opinion. I did want to talk about a few things, just comments. Guildford, the Innisfil project that you're referring to, Mr. Hicks, that was just one section of some of the issues that happened there. Stormwater, they went with a certain LID, it didn't work, they since took it out. It is the very similar LID that they're proposing in this plan. But another project that's in Guildford that is a nightmare for me and the residents of Guildford right now is another project called Guildford Estates. And it is very much concerns about elevation, heights of buildings, staring down into existing properties. These are things that we are dealing with right now on a project that was approved that, in my opinion, shouldn't have been approved. And I would hate to go down this road again. So I would hope that my council mates consider about what's happening down there in Guildford currently ongoing. It's a development that's happening right now where we are having great difficulties on grade elevation change, height restrictions, water runoff, etc. So this is an example that's happening right now in our town that we can use as a reference to support why this project should not happen.
Sorry, no applause allowed, I'm sorry. Anyone else, questions or comments for Mr. Hicks? Seeing none, I'm going to ask the clerk, thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Hicks. I'm going to ask the clerk to we did receive several pieces of correspondence, so I just want to make sure that residents know that, that they were circulated to all members of council. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. The Clerk's Department received 10 pieces of correspondence regarding this item, and they were circulated to staff as well as council prior to this meeting.
Thank you. Now I'd ask for a mover and a seconder, please, to receive the delegation. Moved by Councillor Richardson, seconded by Councillor Waters. All those in favor? That is carried. So for those who haven't been here before, the report, I'm sure, will be pulled when we get to our consent agenda. And then when we resolve into committee of the whole, there will be, I'm sure, further debate on that item. Any item that we go through the consent agenda that is not pulled at the end of the meeting, the staff recommendation will be confirmed. So I guess what I'm saying is stay tuned. Next is item 7, which is municipal associations. Any updates that members of council from committees that they've been asked to sit on by this council? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. Yesterday, we had county, and one item came up that was actually got a bit of debate, was something the province has done. From the county, they removed the recycling capabilities from the county and taken it over through the recycling for industrial, commercial, and institutional. Now, when we do this sort of thing, there's always somebody who falls through the cracks. So we're not talking the major corporations that are supposed to be forefronting and paying for these things in advance or paying for pickup. We're talking about the not-for-profits and like the Legion and whatnot in the community, the people that help others and volunteer their time. So during this debate, it was the term heart versus head was used pretty consistently when it came down to costing nothing for status quo and continued advocacy through the county to the province to pick up their part of the load and address this, because they haven't done it efficiently, versus actually paying out of pocket and putting on the taxpayer to compensate for the province in itself. So people, it went back and forth, but the idea being that it was a consensus that if we at county level do anything and charge the taxpayers for this, the province has no motivation to clean up their act, for lack of a better term. So they're in the process now. We agreed to go forward with back to continual advocacy, trying to get them to address these concerns so that those that are the smaller corporations and the not-for-profits don't get left behind because of a bad decision. Hopefully it turns out well. More locally, we had the TSAC, Traffic Safety Advisory Committee, and we received many reports there, including the Road Safety Initiative Fund that we received $245,521 from already. We're going to have to report on how it was all spent by March of 2028, but we're researching where the cameras were previously located, what we can do for traffic mitigation measures, how we can move forward and address those concerns, and be on top of everything with this new funding. There was a bit of a hiccup with the Big Bay Point and 20 Side Road. There's clearance issues with the existing hydro. They have to modify it before they can energize it. So basically it's still being done. It's just going to take a little longer, and I believe there's going to be some communication with the public regarding the reasoning why, so that it doesn't look like we're putting it off any longer than need be. And they're working to expedite it. Councillor Richardson might be happy to hear that Webster Park pedestrian crossing is going to be put into play. We're adding on top of the crosswalk itself traffic calming measures. We're going to look into that, and they're going to be using, there's a report going to be coming on March 11th requesting reallocation of surplus funds from another project to fund this so it doesn't cost any extra money overall. And I believe it was Councillor Drodge that asked if it was going to be overhead lights, and I believe they stated that that was going to be the case. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else have any other committees that they attended on behalf of council? I have a few. First of all, the Simcoe County Auto Mayors met. This is a working group of mayors in Simcoe County And we work with the economic development team at Simcoe County to do what we can to support the auto manufacturers and the suppliers and the jobs that come with them to protect those jobs here in South Simcoe. The Enterprises Board met, so the shareholder will hear more about this initiative at the next meeting on March 11th. And the board also approved a revised Sentinel Light business strategy. I'm sorry for my voice. The PAC committee, the Planning Advisory Committee, met at Simcoe County to discuss settlement area boundary expansions and growth in general throughout the county of Simcoe. The deputy already talked about TSAC. I'll just add that Sergeant Kiernan of South Simcoe Police talked about the number of injuries and some accidents with off-road vehicles. He's recommending we look at our currently at our ATV bylaw, which is fairly old. There have been some legislative changes, and bylaw will be looking at bringing something back for council to consider in the future. We had a South Simcoe Police Services Board meeting. The South Simcoe Police, one of the items there, we did purchase a new 3D scanner. It's a new item that when there's been a bad accident or a fire that's suspicious, they can put this scanner down and it will accurately do a reconstruction of the scene. And the idea of this is it can do it so much faster and accurate than people can. And what that means is that the roads get reopened faster while the evidence is provided so that when it goes to court, they have the proper evidence for that particular collision. Also at County Council, we did raise the It Starts campaign flag, which is encouraging all municipalities in Simcoe County to support the International Day of the Elimination of Racism and Discrimination. And then finally, similar to what the deputy was talking about with the recycling that has now been legislated provincially to be done by circular materials, they are going to be coming to County Council and doing a delegation on March the 10th. So if anybody has horror stories about their recycling not getting picked up properly, please let the deputy or I know so that we can pass that information along to SEMA when they come to present to us on March the 10th. And I'm seeing no more hands, so we'll go now right into our consent agenda. And this is where I sound a bit like a bingo board going through all of the reports that are on the staff agenda. And if council agrees with the staff report, it'll simply be confirmed at the end of the meeting. If they don't agree, it'll be pulled and we'll have further conversation during committee of the whole. So A1, council meeting minutes dated February the 11th, 2026. B1, the summary report from the January 13th Innisfil Accessibility Advisory Committee. B2, the summary of the Innisfil Heritage Advisory Committee meeting on February 5th. C1, the consideration of the final engineer's report for the Hughes Drain improvement. C2, the official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment for 1015 Cumberland Street. Pulled by Councillor Constantine. The C3, the staff report in services 2026 water and wastewater rate approval. Nobody? Okay. I guess I just want to make a comment on this, is that the fact that we have the variable rates now, even though the rate will be going up, it will be based on if lower users, like people with that have conserved their water well, will have less of an increase, whereas people who use a lot of water will have a bigger increase. So I think that's fair, and it also gives the opportunity for people who don't want to see their rates go up. If they conserve more water, then they'll be able to save money. Councillor Waters?
Just on that note, it would be nice that when these rate increases go up, that in their, when they get their next water bill, that some sort of educational pamphlet go in there with, concrete measures in terms of how you can save water, equal to or more than the increase is going to happen. Because 7% is a significant increase. And so it would be nice to be able to have some strong concrete measures that will help people to save water. Thank you.
Thank you, and our in-services folks are here tonight and taking notes, so I'm sure they will take that into account. The other thing that makes it difficult is your water and your wastewater, for those who are on municipal water and wastewater, it comes on their hydro bill. So quite often I'll have people call me and wonder why their hydro bill went up when in fact it was their water or wastewater usage that was up that month, if they filled a pool or they watered their grass a lot. So just wanted to point that out as well. Next is C4, so nobody's pulling that, so there's no objection to that. C4, 3509 Glenhaven Beach Road Class 3 permit under the CPBS bylaw. C5, the new septic reinspection program bylaw. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a question for staff. On page 2 of the report, it stated over the last 3 years, 1,209 inspections have been conducted. I understand that there's a certain level of failure involved. I was just wondering what that number might be roundabout, or just a general idea of where.
Thank you. Welcome to our Deputy CBO.
Thank you. Through the mayor, over to Deputy Mayor Fowler. I did manage to get some stats from staff. So actually, I managed to get last year's statistics, and last year was a little bit weird in that we had a lower amount of inspections just because it was an adjustment year. Last year, we did about 140 inspections, around 10 of them deemed to have some kind of issue with it, of which 9 of them would be considered a minor issue if you're looking at the bylaw, and 1 of them would have been considered a major issue. With that, our biggest issue right now we have is maintenance agreements. And we went from a list of 130 that were missing maintenance agreements down to 30 that we have outstanding right now.
Okay, thank you for that. And how often is this cycle repeated for inspections?
Deputy CBO.
Through the mayor to Deputy Mayor Fowler, it's a 5-year cycle mandated by the province.
Thank you. I just had a couple of comments. The idea of if somebody has a tertiary system put in that gets inspected regularly, are they exempt from our inspection, or if they just show, like I think that's what you meant when you mentioned showing the records, the maintenance agreements, does that constitute a past inspection if they have the maintenance agreements?
To the mayor, that is correct, yes. If they're doing their regular maintenance, which is a yearly inspection every year, and as long as they show proof that they have a maintenance contract, they do not have to pay anything. We accept that report as acceptable.
Thank you. And over the years, I mean, I get through the Lake Simcoe Protection Plan, it's pretty obvious if you're near the lake that you need your septic inspected. But under the Clean Water Act, if you're within a kilometer of a municipal well, you also need to have your septic inspected. And it's a little harder for people to understand why they're singled out and other people maybe in their subdivision are not. It's because of their proximity to a municipal wellhead. But the biggest complaint I've ever gotten on this whole program, understanding it's provincially mandated and we must comply, is that notification. And I was really glad to read in the report that we will send out a notification to people letting them know that this is going to happen. So I want to just say that's a big improvement. Anything to add, Deputy? Did I prompt any other questions from any members of council? Seeing none, thank you so much. Next is item P6, which is the staff report regarding parkland dedication bylaw amendment. Councillor?
Can you pull that, please?
Councillor Saunders has pulled that and put it to committee of the whole. Next is the planning application status update. Councillor Saunders.
Thank you. I just have a question for staff. It says when we're looking at each one, I'm sorry, my computer's rebooting, I don't know why. But it says there's some of the questions I have were under what the status applications. My computer's still booting. The one is the 25th Side Road and Lockhart. It says, let me just get right to the start. There it is. 3275 25th Side Road, it says the Tarome Incorporated. It says, just under it says action, it says council update report required, possible public meeting if major changes proposed, awaiting response from applicant. I've met with numerous people in the area and they want that second public meeting to know what's going on because I think they're drilling wells in that and there's no knowledge to the public in that area. And the other one was 1460 Killarney Beach Road. It's, let me just find out what it was. It's just, I just want to get the it up. It says awaiting second submission addressing technical and public comments received. It says nowhere under actions that council has requested that we do not change it from commercial to residential. So I'm just wondering if you could address those two.
Manager Carrera or Director Lee?
So Mayor Dolan, I'll start with the first one in terms of 3275. Until such time as staff actually get an updated set of materials from the applicant, we don't know if what is being proposed is in line with what went through the first public meeting. If it is, the Planning Act doesn't allow for a second public meeting because the application hasn't changed since that first public meeting. But that's where we've sort of identified we're awaiting updates from the applicant to determine what the scope of change is. In terms of the second application, and my apologies, I was trying to scroll down, so I don't know if Manager Correa had that one.
Through Mayor Dolan, for the 1460 property KBR. So this report itself is a high-level overview of all things development, so we don't get into great detail on all the technical comments. However, we're still working with the applicant, respecting those comments raised at the public meeting for that project, and those discussions are ongoing, so we don't have a further update at this time.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on this report? Just to say, it's really helpful. I've bookmarked this to keep it, separate so that when I do get a phone call about what's happening at this or that application, I've got something that I can refer to. So thank you very much for that. Seeing no other comments and no one pulled that item, we'll go to D2, which is the planning projects update. D3, which is the non-standard procurement dock and lakeside park improvement project. D4, the customer service Q4 and year-end 2025 report. Again, I don't want to pull it, just had a question for Director Gibson. So it's a good report to show the amount of inquiries that customer service is getting and comparing over other years and different times of the year. In the past, we've gotten reports that then categorize the inquiries into like subjects. So we know so many, we got 1,000 calls about, I don't know, parking tickets and 1,000 calls about, well, I'm sure it'd be more than 1,000 calls about snow this year. But all of the different whatever the items are so that council can then see what the systemic issues are, whether it's, garbage cans not cleaned out or grass not cut, and how we can then use that information during budget time to decide, what needs more oomph and what doesn't. I'm just wondering if there's anything planned in that respect.
Thank you for the question, Mayor Dolan. I can speak broadly to the categories that are captured in the report. About 60% or so of the inquiries that we have at customer service fall into 4 main categories, with the majority of that, about half of that 60%, falling into property tax inquiries. The other 3 areas really fall into building, construction concerns, bylaw, and community operations, such as parks, roads, community spaces, and facilities. If you would like further information on the details, certainly some of the other areas or more detail on what fits in with each of those, we can certainly develop the report or develop a secondary report to provide that.
Thanks, Director Gibson. And I just also want to compliment the team on the closure rate and how quickly from the time the call comes in to the time that there is an answer given back. And I've also heard from many residents that they really appreciate the quick time that the call gets picked up versus being left on hold, like if you're calling Rogers or Bell or somebody like that and you're on hold for a long time. But it's also nice to get a human person when you actually do get the phone picked up.
Yes, and thank you on behalf of the team. They work very hard, so it's nice to hear that appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we've got bylaws. We have no bylaws this evening, so correspondence for action. We've got a request for a municipal significant event for the Gussapalooza Music Festival. And we've got also F2, Council Discretionary Grant Program for the Wolfpack Minor Lacrosse Club, hoping to get going again. And F3, the Council Discretionary Grant Program for CFS Counseling and Wellbeing for Coldest Night of the Year, which is happening this Saturday. Just a little plug, 4 o'clock. And G1, Proclamation for It Starts campaign. G2, the I had it earlier, Amyloidosis Awareness Month. G3, Simcoe County Council highlights from February the 10th meeting. And then H, motion for which notice has been given. It's a very long notice. Very long motion. I apologize for that. It was actually written by the City of Peterborough, but it's the same issues that with policing, particularly those of us who have our own police forces versus OPP. I think besides the court security that Mr. Hicks spoke of earlier, one of the frustrating points about funding for police services right now is that OPP policed communities are getting either a cap or last year they got a refund for their amounts, and municipalities that have municipal-based police forces did not receive the same treatment. So we're asking Minister Kersner to just adding our advocacy and our voice to the City of Peterborough. Any questions or comments on that one? Seeing none, then we'll go to our consent list recommendation, please. And we had 2 items pulled, C2 and C6. And so I'll ask for a mover and a seconder for the consent list items, please. Councillor Zanella, Councillor Richardson, all those in favor? That is carried. So we'll now ask for a mover and a seconder to resolve into committee of the whole, please. Moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by Councillor Constantine. All those in favor? That is carried. The first item that was pulled was item C2. And that was pulled by Councillor Constantine. Do you have a second, Councillor Constantine?
Yes, my second is Councillor Isis.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you to speak as close to the microphone as you can, please, because I'm sure there's a lot of people who are interested in this item.
So I have 2 questions and an amendment. So the first question is, would you be able to confirm the anticipated timeline for bringing town water to the Cumberland subdivision.
Director Lee, is that fair, or would we ask the CAO from In-Services for that?
Mayor Dolan, it would make sense if In-Services could address that question.
Thank you. You thought you were here to talk about water and wastewater rate increases, and instead, so this is Mr. Danny Persaud. Danny is the CEO of In-Services, and with him is Tom Panic. Tom is the Chief Operating Officer of In-Services that's responsible for municipal water and wastewater here in the town.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council, staff, esteemed guests, and members of the public. We're happy to address comments on this particular issue. So I have with me our COO, Tom Panic, so he can help with some of the technical answers. But in general, we don't have any long-term plans to bring municipal water to this site. We have looked at this project through our master servicing plan and found that this project should be classified as a local service improvement project, which should be 100% developer paid. The total cost we looked at in the plan is approximately $5 million. And if that were not to be a local service project, then it would have to have less benefit to existing customers. And what it's showing is that the number of units being proposed is much less than the benefit to existing customers. So in that case, based on the town's servicing policy, we would look to have that be a local service improvement project.
Thank you.
Can I just step in here just for a second, Councillor Constantine, because I want to address what Mr. Hicks said about is the contact point, and is it the closest place to service, or is there some place is there water servicing closer to the site that would make it less expensive?
Through you, Your Worship. The point that the speaker was referring to is in the same pressure zone, but there's no capacity in the Lefroy system. So when staff of In-Services studied the issue, we are looking at the point where there's capacity in the system, and so that's the point that we chose. It would have significant cost upgrades beyond what we proposed to connect to that point that was being referred to.
Thank you. Sorry for interrupting, Councillor Constantine. Go ahead.
Thank you. My next question is regarding the subdivision. What is the projected load of fill required for the project?
Director Lee.
Mayor Dolan, can I just get Councillor Constantine to repeat the question for me?
Okay, what is the projected load of fill required for the project? Because it would have to fill, right? Because to make it higher.
Right, okay.
Through you, Mayor Dolan, just to answer the question. So that would be answered through detailed design. Should the zoning be approved, they need to go through a formal draft plan of subdivision. There's 16 lots being proposed, so it wouldn't go through committee of adjustment or consent. It'd be a full draft plan of subdivision process, and at that point, through detailed design, we would be able to confirm the amount of fill that's required. That's all we could speak to tonight.
Thank you. Other questions? Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll stay on the fill question because it is one of the many concerns I have about this project. There was a project on Tall Tree and Buchanan where a landowner wanted to have fill brought in so he could develop those properties. And the town and the Conservation Authority gave him the authority to bring in, I think it was close to 200 tons of material, to give him what was called positive drainage. When we did that, houses immediately around that spot were now flooded, which had never been flooded before. So my concern here is that we're going to do the same thing to these neighbors, is that whenever it says in the report that there is no evaluated wetland. It does not mean there is no wetland. So it could be a wetland, but it's unevaluated. So my concern is, just like the spot on Buchanan and Tall Tree, is that was a small wetland which was used to hold water during flooding times. Here we have the exact same situation where we're going to displace all the water that is in that site with fill, and then we're going to require some sort of easement or something to drain that water. And bioswales will not do it. Bioswales do not work in areas where you have high water table. And in that report, it says that 0.5 meters below the surface is the water table in terms of most wells. So bioswales are not going to work in this location. And it's a fancy way of saying that they're doing something sustainable when they're actually not. So I just wanted to bring up that whole fill question. Is if you fill it in, that water has to go somewhere. And most likely, if you raise it up high enough, it's going to impact flooding on neighboring properties. So I just wanted to bring that point up. I have some other questions, but I want to give other people the opportunity. So I'll let other people ask some questions, and I'll come back to some more that I have. Thank you.
I just, if staff has any comments, please just turn your mic on and I'll recognize you. Councillor Richardson.
Just a quick question. Quite a few residents asked about having another public meeting. So my question would be that if we as a council decided to defer this so that we could have another public meeting, would that mean that the builder could go to the OLT?
Through Mayor Dolan, so the public meeting for this project was initially held in last January, so it's been over 1 year. So under the Planning Act, at any point, they could appeal a non-decision. That would be their right. Respecting the request, it is addressed in the staff report. However, what a public meeting doesn't really provide for is a deep dive into the engineering and the technical review. It's an opportunity to raise a lot of the concerns we've heard tonight, and we certainly heard at the public meeting that was held last January. So it's staff's position at this point that we have heard the concerns, and through our technical experts, engineering teams, we've done our best in the technical report to respond to those questions. But to answer your question directly, yes, they would have appeal rights.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Drudge. I'll add you to the list. I just wanted to ask about the functional stormwater report that people are asking about. Is it available online?
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. Yes, all of the technical reports, so the functional servicing, traffic reports, all are available on the Get Involved site. So the original application materials that were the subject of that January 2025 public meeting, and then the updated materials are all available there.
Thank you. Deputy Fowler.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm trying to understand the process here, the thought process that leads to this. According to the report, it says applications were submitted in 2007. That's 19 years ago for a proposed zoning bylaw amendment and draft plan of subdivision to facilitate a 19-lot plan subdivision on the subject lands. And a public meeting was held in October of 2008. That's 1 year later, so we're talking 18 years ago. However, a decision was never made on these applications. That means that at that point in time, there wasn't sufficient support to put this in the surrounding community, to my understanding. If there's not a decision made and it wasn't put forth, right? And then now we're talking going back here, and now we're talking about as well removing a hazard designation. Now, a hazard designation in land use planning is a regulatory mechanism used to identify, map, and manage areas that are unsafe for development due to natural or human-made risks. One of the key components is natural hazards that include flooding. And we're talking in the middle of a floodplain there. Like, this is not something that's come out of the blue and hit us. This is something that's been well known ever since the developments occurred. Then if you go down to page 14 of the report, it says staff note, the hydrological assessment identifies 3 overburdened aquifers beneath the site. So right now we're already telling them that the aquifers we have are overburdened, but we're going to drill more wells because it's not going to affect the deeper wells. And then that's nice in theory, but if you take into account what happened with Avalon, which has been brought up numerous times before, it could be a reoccurring situation which we can easily avoid. This is, 20 years ago it wasn't good enough. Last year when it came to council it wasn't good enough. I still stand by that it's not good enough. You can't give half measures to address a situation in a floodplain that will affect so many residents directly connected to these properties. This is not something that I can stand behind and say that, well, we'll address it when it comes down the road. I don't agree with that. So because of that specifically, when we come to this vote, I'm asking for a recorded vote. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if we have a hydrogeologist here, but can somebody explain what an overburden well is? Director Lee, is that a fair question or not? I just want to clear the air. I don't want there to be any confusion.
Mayor Dolan, I'm probably not going to be able to address that appropriately from my general knowledge of it.
Mr. Panic, is that something up your alley?
Mayor Dolan, that's not my field of expertise, but I would assume that it's, as implied, overburden. It's in excess of what it can supply.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Councillor Drodge.
Thank you, Your Worship. Almost forgot my question. Just to follow up on Phil, so Councillor Constantine alluded to grade separation, elevation, import, export of fill. And I believe, Mr. Carrera, you mentioned that that would come later in the engineer report, et cetera. My question is, if we approve this project tonight, would it ever come back to council to approve what the new grade would be on that property? And reason why I'm asking is because this happened at Guildford Estates and 5,000 truckloads of fill came in and changed grade separation by 10 feet. And it never came back to council. So it was kind of thrown on our laps as the development progressed. And all of a sudden we've got this massive grade change. So my question is simply, would it come back to council when you do know what the grade separation is?
Manager Correa.
Through Mayor Dolan to Councillor Drodge. So the draft plan of subdivision is a staff delegated process. It's heavily influenced by the engineering and technical review. So it wouldn't come back to council in terms of the process.
Thank you for that, Brent, or Mr. Correa. So yeah, to council, be aware, we approve projects, things can change drastically without our approval, and that is proper recourse. We do depend on staff, but just know that if you don't know grade separation, it could shock you down the road. That's just a comment. Thank you.
Councillor Saunders.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a really simple question. Can we just not ask Ballymore to pay to have water brought in and save all the residents' wells that are already there, so there's no undue burden on their wells?
Director Lee.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan, through to Councillor Saunders. So the town doesn't have the authority to direct Ballymore. We can ask them to do that. They would have to make a business decision. Their applications were brought in on the basis of the private wells and not the extension. I do know it's spoken to in their planning justification report specifically, that from a business viability in terms of the number of homes proposed, that wasn't an option. I'd have to look at the specific page reference but it is in that report that's available online.
Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Drodge. I keep forgetting to look at my screen.
No problem, Your Worship. Thank you. So to follow up on Councillor Saunders' comment, we are within our jurisdiction, though, to uphold our bylaw and demand that it is fully serviced lots, and we will not support development without that. We are within our rights to do that, though, to the developer, are we not?
Director Lee.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan, through to Councillor Drodge. That's correct. So if council wanted to uphold the policy, then they would deny the official plan amendment application that has been proposed to not require the municipal water.
Thank you.
Councillor Constantine. Sure.
I would like to propose an amendment for the additional public meeting given the elevation and degrading changes that have not occurred since the last public meeting. It is vital that our residents have a formal opportunity to review the most recent site plans and provide feedback before a final decision is made. So I'm requesting a public hearing.
And do you have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Ices is a seconder for the amendment. Okay, so now we have an amended motion, so the conversation is on the amendment. Councillor Waters, was it on the amendment?
I had some other things I wanted to question about what we had before us, so I guess that all goes mute.
Clerk, can we talk on about items other than the amendment?
Thank you, Your Worship. Procedurally, it would be appropriate to only discuss the amendment on the screen. However, the chair could allow members to ask further questions at this time.
Thank you. So I'm going to ask Councillor Constantine if she could hold her amendment until we've had further discussion, and then we would bring your amendment forward, if that's okay? Okay, thank you. Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Councillor Constantine, to allow that. There are a whole variety of things I don't like about this proposal. One I've already mentioned about bioswales. They don't work in this application. The fill, because I've seen what happens in my ward, what happens when you bring in fill and surrounding properties that get flooded, and no one, absolutely no one, takes liability for what happened to those other residents. Those people, that properties have been bought and sold, and new residents are found that they have flooded property and they can't seem to do anything. They don't know whether to turn to the town, or do they go after the Conservation Authority. So part of my other component to this is liability. So if we go ahead and approve this, who is liable? If council makes that decision, who is liable if these other properties get flooded or they run out of water? So my question to staff is, who is liable if those types of disasters happen down the road? And I have other points as well, so I'll just ask for that to be answered first.
Director Lee.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. So the review that happens, as Manager Correa indicated, following a decision of council, should the application proceed, would be the detailed design. That detailed design is reviewed by town staff and/or peer review consultants. And the final design of the site is written into the subdivision agreement. So there are provisions that the developer has obligations and they have to fulfill those obligations. If they do not, then they're liable for ensuring that they correct and remediate through that process.
So one of the suggestions was that the developer put down a fund which is sees what's going to happen over that property over 5 years, and that those funds can be used to remediate any situation that might arise either from flooding or from lack of or people lose their wells.
Through you, Mayor Dolan, to Councillor Waters. As noted in the staff report and the peer review comments, there were mitigation measures and long-term monitoring, both during construction and post-construction, identified as recommendations. Those would be incorporated into the subdivision agreement, and appropriate securities to ensure that was adhered to would be required by the town.
Okay, thank you. The other part I have a question about is the increased height because they don't have basements. I happen to build a house in Innisfil. It's a slab on grade. It's 2,200 square feet. It's plenty of room. It has 3 bedrooms. It also happens to be the most energy efficient house in Innisfil. I'll just throw that out there. I don't understand why we're giving extra storage for a 3rd floor, which has, as was pointed out, allows a back deck to be built that they can peer down on all their neighbors. So when we talked about privacy, privacy is gone. You'd have to have a tree that's 40 years old to be able to provide that privacy we're looking at here. So in terms of, there is going to be no privacy. Privacy fence isn't going to do it when you're already 40 feet up in the air looking down on your neighbors. So I'm just kind of concerned that the height does not fit into this community, especially when you look down on the other side of the property, of the street, where most of the houses are single-story cottages. These houses are going to be 3 times as high as those single-story cottages, which is not in character. So I guess my question here is, when you decide that it fits the character of the neighborhood, what criteria do you use? And do you ever go out and take a look at the properties which are currently there? Because I know that, that when other venues, we go out and take a look at things. Do we take a look at, does this actually fit into this community? It does on one side maybe because there's 2-story homes there, but on the other side, it absolutely does not. So I just, what are our criteria when we say it fits into the existing community?
Through Mayor Dolan, so can confirm both myself and staff behind me have been to the site and as well as the community adjacent. And in a lot of these areas, there are certainly a range of bungalows and smaller, less tall homes. We have seen a slight evolution of newer homes being built. For example, I believe it's 1015 Whisker was recently built and approved over the last couple of years, where it's a similar, I believe it's 10.5 meters that they built to in that case. And although it's not in the rear, it's in the front, they actually do have a balcony on the bedroom floor. And so we did see instances in sort of maturation of redevelopment taking place in this vicinity and along Emily, along Whisker, and in the area. So as you have an area going through development and redevelopment, it won't necessarily look identical to what was previously there. And we're looking at it in the sense of, from an official plan perspective, from a design perspective, is it still within that low-rise, single detached dwelling character within 2 stories? Now, the builder is looking to have, I think, an option for that sort of mezzanine, if you call it, or what's built into the roof line that was spoken to earlier, but that's within the design roof line. So basically, we look at the evolution of the neighborhood as it redevelops over time and its local context. So what we wouldn't say is it has to be identical to what was there previously. It has to be compatible.
Thank you. They say they want some flexibility in the design of the houses and that, not all of them will be 12.6 meters tall. If I had the option of having a deck on the 3rd floor, I would take it. I would think that all 16 of those are going to have a deck on the back of their property, and so that they will all be 12.6 meters tall, because that's what people will want. If they're going to be building that close to the lake, I want to see the lake. And so I think that's what's going to end up happening, is that even though they say they're flexible, not everyone's going to afford it, I think that's actually going to happen. I have one last comment, and then I will stop talking. I think it's the test well number 1. First of all, I'll say with the test wells that they did the testing in November. That's when most of the aquifers are full. They didn't do it during the summertime where, wells may be affected by what's called the zone of influence, where the wells get drawn down. So my question around the testing, it's a failed test because they did it at a time of the year when A, the vacationers are gone, and B, when the aquifers are full and they're least susceptible to any drawdown. So I am really quite disappointed that we allowed them to do the test in November and not in the middle of summertime, where we could have a dry period and most of those wells are going to be affected. Also on that as well, I'll throw in on top of that, is that I've railed before that we have all these pockets of development in Innisfil, which have either no sewers or no water. On Spring Street in downtown Alcona, there are houses which have no septics and no water. And we continue to allow development around them, and these places exist. So I think we should take the opportunity to somehow, have the developer pay to have the water brought to that site, the $5 million, or we don't allow the development at all. In terms of the bylaw says you have to have both, and so we should be allowing both.
No, sorry, no applause.
Yeah.
You can thank him later after the
give me a
meeting.
big head. Back to the zone of influence. that cone of depression when the water is drawn down, is that if you look at some of the graphs, it shows that how far that cone of influence goes. And the further away you get from the property, that zone of influence gets less and less. It's deepest on the property, but that zone of influence impacts all the houses immediately around that site. And so for those people who have low wells or dug wells or bored wells will be affected by that during the summertime. And so as far as I'm concerned, the hydrological report, especially at T1, shows that properties around that are going to be affected. And we are going to say it's okay. And that's why I get back to the liability piece. So there are so many things about this development that I don't think we should be allowing this. And so for that reason, there's just no way I will support any application that still has a lot of these issues. And I think a lot of these issues will come back in a public meeting. So I will support the fact that we need to have a second public meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Drodge.
Thanks, Your Worship. This is actually kind of around the revised recommendation. It's about the fact if we did vote on having another public engagement, would that still allow the developer to go to the OLT under a non-decision? Or if we did recommend public engagement, would they be kind of, for lack of better words, at a standstill until we had that public engagement? I just want to know that. I know we asked it earlier, but I didn't really get a firm answer.
Director Lee.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. Through you to Councillor Drodge. To be clear, the appeal rights, regardless of whether there's a second public meeting, they can appeal a non-decision in advance of that public meeting. It does not stop the planning timelines. They are already at the point now where they can appeal a non-decision.
And that's because they're over their 1 year, is that correct? Through the plan.
Through you, Mayor Dolan, to Councillor Drodge, yes, it's significantly less than 1 year is the Planning Act requirement, but that's correct.
Okay, so then I guess I struggle with pushing this for another public engagement. I would like to see us turn this down. I think most of council has expressed their opinions. You know, we want fully serviced lots. We don't want the overhyped. I respect that the residents want public engagement, but let's face it, guys, they could appeal this tomorrow. So I would like to put my foot in the ground anyway and deny this application. I don't know if that's an interest to the rest of council, but that would be my opinion.
Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Worship. Just as I think this through, and you know, council has turned things down here before, and it gets appealed, and that's fine. But I just want to understand the reasoning behind approving this development when it comes to water was based on they have a report from a engineer, consultant, whoever, that says this will support well water. So if council decides we will only approve this if it's on municipal water, is that enough of a reason that it would not get appealed? Because staff has already said, the consultant says the wells are good enough, that's good enough for us. Is it, the fact that council would say the only way we would approve this is by it having municipal water, would that be enough of a reason? That would be a decision, and would that eliminate their opportunity to appeal?
Director Lee.
So, Mayor Dolan, I know Councillor Drodge had his request to speak, so I'm not sure if he was looking to speak to that. But to go to Councillor Ices' comment, I think council, I would always encourage specific reasons as to why council is denying the application, and I'm not sure that's the only one I heard around council's discussion tonight. But to be clear, so there are the reports from the applicant and the peer reviews that were done on behalf of the town. They did identify the additional testing and certainly heard Councillor Waters' comments about the timing. They did identify the need for additional monitoring to be done, and those mitigation measures and monitoring would be requirements of the draft plan conditions, as staff noted. But if council was going to look at not supporting the application, that would be one of your reasons.
Deputy Fowler.
Thank you, Worship. Just a technical question. Everyone's talking about the official plan amendment, which could be taken to the OLT. Would the zoning bylaw amendment be forced upon us by the province if we said no? Or do they have the power to push that through? Because the idea being that we're changing the official plan to mitigate this, but it doesn't fit. In the opinion of many, you've heard numerous reasons from council. If we say no, we don't change the zoning bylaw, then they can go to the province and have that done on our behalf? Or would the province have the authority to tell us, you must change your official plan?
Director Lee.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. Just so it's clear for all of council, so the applications that are before council are an official plan amendment and a zoning bylaw amendment. That is, as you'll see, sort of in the recommendation. So council, if you're turning it down, you're turning down the official plan amendment and the zoning bylaw amendment. Both of those would go to the Ontario Land Tribunal, and they would make a decision on both of those.
Deputy.
Thank you, Your Worship. In that case, another meeting, in my opinion, is not necessary because the people have made their voices heard. We've seen how many people have come up and stated their points and their concerns and their thoughts, and our job is to speak for them, and this is what they wish. I say we follow the will of the people.
Councillor Drodge.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just as the Councillor Ices, it's not just fully serviced bylaw that we're amending. We're also amending 35% lot coverage to 42% lot coverage, and our height from 9 meters to 12.6 meters. So those are three of our crucial bylaws that we live by that they're asking to amend. So along with the other issues that we've seen from the residents and other councillors, there are three main bylaws that they are looking to amend. So I think that we would have a strong case at the OLT. But again, I couldn't agree with the deputy mayor anymore. Our job is to make the right decision. We can't control the OLT. We hope that, brains prevail. Let's leave it at that. Common sense prevails. I'm going to make my decision based on what I feel and what the residents want, and that is not to support this project at all.
Thank you. Councillor Zanella.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. While Avalon was before my time, I sure heard about it when I was campaigning. So it is something that I've always remembered, and I just can't go along with this because what happened with those wells over there, I'm afraid it would be the same thing, and I can't support it.
Thank you. I just want to take a moment to walk everybody through the process behind an application like this one, not because I'm trying to pour cold water on it, but I just want full transparency and for you all to understand the process that we're in. And I think when Ms. Griffith's comments were made, she understands part of it, that the community has to clearly understand how this system works. So I hear the concerns, I share the concerns. I still think that because it's over 90 days, it's when an application is made, if there's not a decision by council in 90 days, it's appealable to the Ontario Land Tribunal. The Ontario Land Tribunal is a person who goes in with the town, hires experts, lawyers, the developer hires expert lawyers, and evidence is submitted. It's a quasi-courtroom. It's like a courtroom. And it's de novo, meaning they don't know, they wouldn't have evidence of what this council felt or how they felt about it. It would be simply the evidence, the reports, what I like to call dueling hydrogeologists, one saying it's not going to affect the water and the other one saying it is going to affect the water. And in the end, the decision is made by that person that none of us know, and that decision is unappealable. So it's not like we can go back. So I'm not trying to be the bad guy. I'm just saying this needs to be all brought into the equation. When you've been dealt a hand of cards and you need to know, do you throw in the whole deck and get a new hand or not? And part of the issue is what happens sometimes is if this developer decides to, they can go to the OLT with the 23 application, can they not? With the application that they first applied for, not the 16. So they could at that point go bigger and see what happens and throw the dice. But so I'm saying this not because I'm trying to be negative. I want everybody's eyes wide open of what could transpire. Like, just because this council stands up and pounds our feet and says, absolutely not, this isn't right, doesn't mean it isn't going to happen. And it wouldn't be our fault. We would have done everything we could. But in the end, the OLT will make this decision. So why I think the idea of passing the amendment for the next public meeting is a good idea is because if we do that and the developer goes to the OLT and says, I'm appealing this non-decision, then we can say, hey, we're still listening. We're willing to talk to them. Why on earth do they want to go through this appeal process when we're still open-minded and we still want it? We're going to have another public meeting. We're going to hear from the developer. And we're going to hear from our people what they want. I think it just puts us in a better light with the OLT chair than us just demanding nothing. I just make it, especially, and I deal a lot with the province of Ontario and the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, and if you've ever listened to him, you'll hear him talk about the housing crisis we're in, how we need more housing, and housing is important, and we'll do anything to get more housing. And so I think that right now, the province is more pro-developer than pro-neighborhoods. But I'm just putting it all out there. I'll go with whatever council decides. I just wanted to fully disclose that thought process around what is in our control and what is out of our control. And I want us as a community to make the best decision for the best outcome for all of us. And I'll go to Councillor Drodge.
Thanks, Your Worship. No, I agree. I know what you're trying to do there. I guess a question that should have been asked earlier is if we did go for a public meeting, say in the summertime, during that time, could the town, with this new information, all the other questions asked by council, all the other concerns by residents, could the town go to the developer and further negotiations with them? Could they have those conversations while we're waiting for the public engagement so we're better prepared if we went that route?
Director Lee.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. Through to Councillor Drodge. So certainly, if that is the recommendation that's endorsed tonight, we would have follow-up discussions with the developer about the concerns that were obviously identified tonight. Indicate that, it's council and the community's interest in having the public meeting, trying to find alternatives to what's been proposed to date that address those concerns, and see whether they would provide additional information for that public meeting. Otherwise, the materials that would be at the public meeting would be what's currently available online.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, I retract my comment then. Maybe the public meeting might be the better route to go. It's a last ditch effort for the developer to realize the concerns of the residents in that area and maybe come to an agreement where everybody's happy and can accept the project. So yeah, the original recommendation by Councillor Constantine, I could support that if those kinds of conversations will be taking place while we're waiting for that public meeting.
Councillor Constantine, did you want to put your amendment back up?
I would like to propose an amendment for additional public meeting, given the elevation and grading changes that have occurred since the last public meeting. It is vital that our residents have a formal opportunity to review the most recent site plans and provide feedback before a final decision is made.
Thank you, and your seconder is good. So, so the revised motion's on the floor. The only other comment I would make is OLT hearings are really expensive. They're expensive for us, and they're expensive for the developer. They've got to hire lawyers and experts to go to these things. So if there is any chance of kind of finding a middle ground with the proponent prior to you know, spending all that money, I mean, in the end, I think it's worth the extra time and extra effort, and I would hope that the proponent would think so too. I know that in the past, and I think the deputy mayor alluded to it, that the original application that came forward, it never came back. So it's not that council voted it down, and it's because the community came out and talked about their dislike for it and talked about different reasons why it shouldn't happen. And the proponent left and never came back. Kind of similar with Tromie right now, same sort of thing. So I didn't want everybody to think that we could just say no and that was the end of it and you'd all go home and it would remain a beautiful treed wetland forever, because that's not the way it is. Anyway, I'm done. Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Worship. I find ourselves in this situation again where we're past the 100 days and we're being forced into this situation. I'm at a loss for words why planning department, this is not good planning. This is my opinion. I'm not a planner, okay? I don't think this is good planning where we're asked to, short circuit so many bylaws and people's rights to a second public. We've short circuited everything here, and we're put in this situation now. It's our decision, or it goes to the OLT. And so I really don't like being put in this position because when it comes to the OLT, we mostly lose and we spend a lot of money, but I think it's a good fight. So I think it's up to us to decide. I don't know if this is a better way or not. My major concern is, do they even have to, if we propose a second meeting, can they just say, no, we're going to the OLT? In that case, we've lost, it's going there now. So my question to staff is, if they say no, we don't want a second public hearing, it may look slightly bad that they don't want to, but what happens if they say no?
Mayor Dolan, through to Councillor Waters. We can ask for the public meeting. We can indicate that that's the direction of council. They can choose to appeal the non-decision tomorrow. They can choose to do it tonight. They can do it 2 months from now. I did want to clarify, because I know what's on the screen says an additional public meeting. I think I also heard waiting until summertime. So I think I need to clarify that with council, because I think that will be another risk if you push this off for 4 months. You could be asking them to take it to the OL. Like, is it an immediate public meeting? Is it waiting till the summertime? I think staff are looking for some direction on what council was looking for there.
I mean, I'll ask council what they think about that. I mean, summertime would be the best, but I mean, Councillor Drodge is zooming in tonight. We've had people zoom in from all over. We can have a public meeting and people can attend wherever they are now, thanks to the technology. Councillor Richardson?
I think at the very least, we should wait till the spring, so at least some of those residents that are away for the winter can be here to get a chance to really get themselves acquainted with this whole project again.
You're assuming we're going to get a spring this year.
Well.
I don't know. Any other thoughts on the timing? Because staff are looking for some direction. My advice would be if we can get them to this summer, get them, but if it's going to be a deal breaker, then I just think that, and to Councillor Waters, if we got, forget the 90 days, if we got this application and we said no in 10 days, they can still appeal it. It doesn't matter when we say no. I would think that by the time staff could even organize a public meeting takes some time. Did I see another hand? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. With the current discussion, is it possible to defer this vote to the next meeting to arrange a conversation to see if they're even open to it? If we come to them and they say no, it's said and done. We know where we're at. If we say they want to have another meeting, are you open to that to see what alterations can be made? And they're open to the idea, then we can set a timeline at the next meeting with that potentiality to address these concerns. If a timeline's the issue, we need to know if they're even willing to discuss to begin with. Is that feasible?
Well, that's the motion that's on, that's the amendment. The amendment is to request another public meeting. They can say, okay, we're willing to talk, or we're not. So that's their decision. Councillor Richardson.
I mean, to that comment, Deputy Mayor, could they not say, okay, yes, but then the day before decide they're going to file with the OLT anyways?
Okay, any final discussions before we call a vote? Oh, and Deputy Mayor required a recorded vote.
Considering it's going to be regarding an additional public meeting, and that seems to be an appetite for it, I withdraw that motion. I need to.
Okay, is everybody okay with a regular vote? We did have a request from the floor for a recorded vote, so if I'll request a recorded vote then. So, Councillor Drodge.
Never mind, Your Worship. I was just going to say, yes, I would like a recorded vote, but you just said it. Thank you.
Okay, recorded vote, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. And to Director Lee's question a little bit earlier on the timing of this public meeting, if we could get a bit of direction on that, would it suffice to say within the next 2 months? Would that?
Director Lee?
Mayor Dolan, if I can just clarify, with the notification requirements, we wouldn't be able to get it until the April meeting. So that would be the earliest that we'd be looking at, which I think classifies as spring. So that's probably what we'd be looking for. We hope it feels like spring by then.
Great, so then can we just give direction that not to put a date down, and if the longer it can go off to the warmer weather, the better. But like you said, the earliest it could be is April. Is that sufficient, Clerk Marshall? Thank you.
A recorded vote has been called on the motion on the screen. When I call your name, please state how you vote, yes or no. Councillor Ices.
In favor.
Councillor Constantine.
Yes.
Councillor Richardson.
Yes.
Councillor Waters.
Yes.
Councillor Zidinella.
Yes.
Councillor Saunders.
Yes.
Councillor Drodge.
In favor.
Deputy Mayor Fowler.
In favor.
And Mayor Dolan.
In favor.
That is carried.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll go to item C. Can't remember what the item was now. C6, please, and that was Councillor Saunders.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Councillor Drodge is going to second this for me. I just want to talk a bit about the parkland dedication and why I am not in favor of doing this. I think it's a very big slippery slope that we're now asking for the non-profit housing religion to be allowed to do it. Now, what's to say next week another nonprofit comes to us and says, well, you gave it to the nonprofit religious, why can't we have it? So I think it's a very big slippery slope forthcoming for the development on that site and for others across the town. I'm just going to hit a couple of points in our community strategic plan alignment. Ensure financial stability. The requirement for parkland dedication contributes toward long-term financial planning and to maintain the town's financial stability while fulfilling community needs identified in the Land and Lake Master's Plan as growth concurs. The local impact. Cash in lieu of parkland is collected for our parks and other public recreation purposes in the town. As identified in the Parks and Land Master Plan, exempting this payment would limit the amount of parkland resources available for Innisfil residents. Now, I'm not talking just about this one application, I'm talking about all applications. Another part, AMJ is not a nonprofit housing development under the Planning Act and as defined in the Development Charges Act is therefore not exempt from parkland dedication requirements. Staff have reviewed other municipalities, including Barrie and Orillia, for best practices approaches. 9 of the 17 municipalities have parkland dedication bylaws. None contain an exemption for places of worship. And then the other one is through the October 22nd, 2025 delegation, AMJ, that they want exempt places of worship. This property is not a place of worship. In my eyes, a place of worship would be the Innisfil Beach Church. This is a parkland where buildings are going to be built, a gym's going to be built, housing's going to be built. And therefore, I do not believe that this land or any other, we should not be making any more changes to our bylaws and leave it exactly as it's written. Thanks.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? Councillor Drodge.
Thanks, Your Worship. In the open forum there, AMJ had mentioned about they're putting in an application for tax exemption. Did I hear that correct?
I believe that's we all heard, yep.
So with that being said, if they did get approved under whatever policy they're trying to get their tax exemption on, would that automatically trigger the parkland exemption without us changing the bylaw?
Director Gibson.
Mayor Dolan, I
Oh,
guess.
I'm sorry.
Sorry,
I'm
that's
sorry.
okay. I'll take that one.
Thank you.
So the bylaw as it currently stands has no exemptions in it. So it does not, if they get the exemption from MPAC, it would not automatically provide an exemption under the bylaw. We still have to have provisions in the bylaw that allow the exemption.
Okay, thank you for that information. I guess my only other final comment is AMJ, in my opinion, they're hugely involved in our community. They've got their teenagers out doing driveways for free. They give to the food bank. They give to the Troy Scott Community Fridge. They host all kinds of events to raise money for all kinds of different charities. I'm surprised that AMJ wouldn't want to pay the parkland dedication because it is better in the community. You are contributing to a space or money to a space that is ultimately doing what you love to do. So I would have to agree with Councillor Saunders. I don't think we need to approve this bylaw. I think it's a slippery slope in the aspect that there's other non-for-profits that might want to try to utilize that exemption. And secondly, AMJ, your whole premise is community. So I think you should be proud to pay those parkland dedication fees because you're bettering our community. And I appreciate you for it. So thank you.
Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Worship. I'm just looking for some clarification here. I keep on hearing not-for-profit and religious organizations. So does this change, is it directed at just not-for-profits, or is it not-for-profit religious organizations? So it has to be attached to a religious organization, not just a not-for-profit organization. So can I just have some clarification on that? Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Dolan, to Councillor Waters, that is correct. It's a not-for-profit religious institution, I think is what we actually said, because that was the wording from council and the direction at the last meeting. So that's how we've identified it in the bylaw that's been brought forward, or the alternative language that we had talked about, sorry, organization.
So any religious organization that came forward wanted to do an expansion to an existing church or something like that, they would get the same exemption.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Through you, Mayor Dolan.
Councillor Drodge.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just to follow Councillor Waters' comments. Yes, we are proposing this as a bylaw amendment for a religious non-for-profit, but then when a non-for-profit comes to the town and asks for this exemption, and we say only religious non-for-profits are allowed, I feel like we're setting a precedence. Like a non-for-profit, in my opinion, is a non-for-profit, religious or otherwise. And I think it's a slippery slope because we're now centering out one specific non-for-profit, and I would have concerns with that.
Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Worship. A couple of questions. First one is, if this property was sold, would that exemption around the parkland be in play again, or would that exemption still not be required? And my other question was, would there be development fees attached to this project?
Director Lee.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. So if the property is sold, it would depend who it was sold to, if they were also a not-for-profit religious organization, institution. If they do no additional development, we can't impose the parkland dedication, the cash in lieu of parkland, because there's no development to associate that with. So if a new purchaser buys the property and proposes additional development, if they were a not-for-profit religious organization, they would not have cash in lieu of parkland to provide. If they are not, they would be required to pay it, but only if there's additional development on the property. In terms of your second question, in terms of development charges, the language in the Development Charges Act, and I may let the finance team on the other side go further with this, it is different. The specific exemptions under the development charges are for places of worship. This property is not zoned for a place of worship. It is an agricultural exception zone that allows the private school on the property, not a place of worship. So the property would have to be rezoned to allow a place of worship, and then could be considered for DC exemptions under the Development Charges Act.
So the questions aren't connected at all, really?
They're two separate pieces of, sorry, Mayor Dolan, through to Councillor Ices, they're two separate pieces of legislation with different provisions in terms of what exemptions exist.
Okay.
Councillor Drodge.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just another question. So if they didn't want to pay cash in lieu, they could provide a park space within their project, and that would be acceptable as well, correct?
Director Lee.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. That is correct.
So I guess I say to AMJ, if you didn't want to pay the money, again, because you're such an involvement in our community, you could build a park space there. You are relatively close to Cookstown. I know Cookstown's always looking for more park space, ball hockey rinks, etc., that are partially covered. It's maybe a thought if you wanted to have something specifically come on your property that would invite other residents to come and partake with.
Thank you. I just have a couple of comments. So I think that I could be wrong, but I think that our staff report highlighted the fact that this group could possibly become, not have to pay property taxes. The building that was there before, or the people that were there before, it was a for-profit school. So that attracted taxes, but as far as I know, a not-for-profit school does not pay property taxes. Could I ask the Treasurer, Director Gibson, if they're aware of that?
Team Mayor Dolan, I believe that a not-for-profit, I'm not certain in terms of a not-for-profit school, but I don't think there is an exemption for taxes for a not-for-profit school. But I could verify that and get back to council.
Okay, so I'm going to, sorry, go ahead, Deputy.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a question on Wheelhouse in regards to this. The Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat Canada is a registered not-for-profit charitable religious organization, and this is at the federal level, this is recognized. Does that not supersede the Planning Act, or are they apples and oranges? Are we comparing apples and oranges in that regard?
Director Lee.
Through you, Mayor Dolan, it would be comparing apples and oranges. They're not the same.
Thank you. So in other words, the only way they're able to get the eligible organization for exemption is under the Assessment Act is the required application to MPAC. That's the only path they have. And if they have the application in, are they required to pay the charges, the $100,000+ previous to the assessment or after?
Through you, Mayor Dolan, to Deputy Mayor Fowler. If they're not able to satisfy, assuming the bylaw is passed tonight under the Assessment Act, until they can provide that we have the justification from MPAC that they meet those requirements, the cash in lieu of parkland would be required to be paid. I'll look to the finance team in terms of if there's an option for what we've done on DC deferral agreements. So is there an opportunity to enter into an agreement that pending conclusion of the MPAC application that they've indicated they've submitted, or whether they wait until they get the decision back from MPAC before proceeding with their building permit, which is really when this is triggered.
So I'm going to actually look to council to see if there's a appetite to defer until the application to MPAC is considered, then, because that could solve the whole problem. I mean, not paying property taxes is way better than not paying $100,000 in parkland fees. I mean, that's huge. So I would like to know the answer on what the MPAC decision is prior to making a decision on the parkland dedication. But I don't know if that messes things up for the, is there a requirement that it has, like, what is the timeline for the parkland dedication?
Through to you, Mayor Dolan. In terms of the payment of the cash in lieu, it would be required to be paid prior to the building permit being able to be issued.
Councillor Drodge.
Thanks, Your Worship. As much as I appreciate you're trying to work ways here, but they're not related, are they not? Like property tax, approved or not approved? DC charges, approved or not approved? Cash in lieu for parkland, approved or not approved? And it's only approved if we change our bylaw. I just don't want to mix them up. Like, I don't think my opinion would change if they were property tax exempt or not, because this is not about AMJ. This is about religious non-for-profits as a whole, and in my opinion, non-for-profits as a whole. So this is not specific just to AMJ. This is a bylaw change for everyone. So I wouldn't want to mix them all up, as in property tax, etc. I would like to look at this as this is just a cash in lieu for parkland, and we are looking at a bylaw tonight to change that to open it up for all religious non-for-profits and possibility setting a precedence for non-for-profits in general. I don't think if they're tax exempt or not, I don't think that should be a factor. That's just my comments.
Councillor Ices.
Thank you, Your Worship. So I appreciate members of council concern about setting a precedent, because I don't think we want to do that. But I'm also thinking that this amendment is specific enough that if you're a not-for-profit and you're not religious, it doesn't apply. There is only a handful of non-for-profit religious organizations in the town. And I think if another church or religious group wanted to do a similar project and asked for this exemption, we'd be fine with it. And then we'd have to have this discussion all over again, because I know there's very active community religious not-for-profit groups that will be doing other, building projects as the town grows. So I think this is maybe something that council should consider, because it's us helping them in the same way they're helping us. So I might counter Councillor Drodge's comment that, they are helping us by giving us the money, but that's very, they are going to spin that off differently than we will. And that's, in that way, I think we want to encourage that. So I would I'm speaking in favor of this amendment.
Thank you. Can I just ask for some clarification? My computer is dying. So attachment 1 is, like, I just want everybody to be clear what we're voting on. Thank you.
So, Mayor Dolan, attachment 1 is the bylaw drafted in line with the recommendation in the staff report that would include the language about the Assessment Act, which we noted in the staff report. Currently, without the MPAC application, we do not believe that AMJ can satisfy. So attachment 1 is the draft bylaw under the Assessment Act.
So if we pass the bylaw as is moved by Councillor Saunders and seconded by Councillor Drodge, sorry, not the bylaw, the recommendation, is that including exempting AMJ from paying parkland dedication or not?
Mayor Dolan, I would say no until such time as their MPAC application is considered.
CAO Gershaw.
Thank you, Mayor Dolan. So in the hope that it's helpful, I guess maybe let's zoom out and go back to how we started this conversation. We had a request from a specific organization and property for relief as it relates to parkland dedication. And back in November, council said, please propose a policy that would allow for such an exemption. So we went away and tried to look for an objective basis for that exemption. You can make it big, you can make it narrow. I mean, that's a choice for council to make. Obviously, the more people you exempt, the more foregone revenue you're looking at, the narrower you avoid that risk, but then you leave people out of the exemption regime, right? So do you want lots of people in, lots of foregone revenue? Do you want a narrow exemption and only a little bit of foregone revenue? So we have looked around. I think we've just established this evening, there are, depending what piece of legislation you look at, there are different frameworks for exemptions. And so what we've proposed is that by focusing on not-for-profit religious institutions, we believe there's an objective basis through the Assessment Act that helps us be clear and transparent around what the exemption is. I think the challenge for council is that at the moment, based on what we know, AMJ would not qualify. But I think we've heard from them tonight that they are seeking application with MPAC similar to, so that they would have tax status similar to what they have in other communities. So Mayor Dolan, you were sort of wondering, well, should we wait and see what the outcome of the MPAC process is? That is an option. I think, the payment in respect of AMJ's property is not due anytime soon, because if it's at the building permit stage, I mean, there's still some other elements of the project that still need to be worked through. So I think for tonight, the question is, do you agree with this framework for an exemption, recognizing that at this moment it would not apply to AMJ? Or would you prefer to just wait to know for sure what AMJ's tax status would be and then make the decision? So I think, postponement of the decision is an option, but at some point, council will need to decide what's the box you want to put around the exemption. So that's kind of where we're at tonight. We've proposed what we think is an objective basis for an exemption. And if AMJ's application to MPAC is successful, then they would qualify and the payment would no longer be due.
Councillor Ices.
Thank you for that clarification. I guess if I step back and if I wanted to apply this to other groups in the town, just to see if the motion in front of us, if I understand it correctly. So let's just say St. James Church in Stroud wants to put up a daycare building. They put in the application. Would they be exempt from parkland dedication? Or Innisfil Community Church, if they want to build something beside their church to help the community, would they be exempt from parkland dedication if this is approved? We're assuming they have the appropriate tax status that CEO Gershaw talked about.
Mayor Dolan, through you to Councillor Ises. So I think we can't give you an exact answer tonight because I'd have to look at the finance team to say, how is each one of those properties, are they tax exempt currently, and therefore they would meet that Assessment Act exemption? We'd have to look at each one of those. If the language was about the nonprofit religious organizations being exempt, then your examples, I would say, would be exempt under that bylaw amendment when it's considered by council. But without looking at each one, which is what we did with the AMJ property, we can't tell you how they're assessed right this minute to say that they would be exempt or not.
But I think you fairly answered the question that if those assumptions were true, they would be exempt around the tax status. And I know there's details around every application, so I won't hold you to that, but the general reason for this bylaw, that would apply, and I think that's council's, at least for me sitting on council, that is something I could live with, I would approve.
Councillor Saunders.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to address Councillor Icey's questions. We're not saying, we're saying no to this bylaw for the religious. You have to remember, if St. James Church is adding on to their church property, there is a house of worship on that property. This property that we're talking about, that they're going for the bylaw amendment, does not have a house of a religious house on the property. It does not have a church. It has nothing. It's just going to be used for housing, for parks, for, you know, all this other stuff. There is no actual church on this property. That's why we're saying no to this amendment, because like we keep saying, it is a slippery slope where now they're asking for a bylaw amendment. Someone else that is going to come back with for a non-profit and say, well, you gave it to the religious people. Let us get in there, and we're going to have a non-profit, and we have to give them it and stuff. So that's why we're saying there's a slippery slope. And like I said, there is no religious housing or no religious house on this property in Cookstown. That's why we're saying no to this.
Councillor Constantine and Deputy Fowler.
I would support tonight that we deferred it until we know exactly when, you know, when the application come back, whether, you know, they are approved or not. So I think we should defer it for tonight, and then we will have a clearer understanding next time what we're voted on.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm trying to put it in a very clinical manner. And all of 262 square kilometers in Innisfil, we have 9 churches, many of them built in the 1800s to the early 1900s, and they've been established as a religious organization. As the dynamic of Innisfil changes, we previously, with a former council member, Councillor Van Berkel, he built Tent City, the synagogue there. Recently, we had another synagogue being built off 6th Line. That's right there, 11 buildings out of total. And then for every religious event that the Ahmadiyya Society has held, it has been at Thor College, or they're revamping the building on Innisfil Beach Road because they have religious events at that location. They don't have a mosque that's built. They don't have a brick and mortar location that they can say this is officially complete as a mosque. So if their intent is to build one on that property, as well as the one on Innisfil Beach Road, this does apply in that regard. We're not saying no, but I mean, if they're changing the land into a religious under religious organization, they're going to be creating a seminary where they teach, where they have the religious events, where the mosque will be present as well as Innisfil Beach Road, to my understanding. That's why I feel this is necessary to support, because if they had one in place already that was currently built, we could say, you know, well, no to this because you have a mosque, you know, unless you're going to build a mosque there. They don't have a house of worship that's anchored at this moment in time.
Thank you, but I just want to clarify that the director said it's not zoned for that, so that if they were going to build that, that would have to be rezoned. Councillor Drudge.
Thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Their application is solely based right now on living residents in a school, etc. They are in planning on having a mosque there at some point, but that's going to trigger a rezone, etc. So are you saying we wait till they go for a rezone and put forth a mosque to make them be exempt of cash in lieu for parkland? Because currently, right now, the property zone agricultural with a hold on it or an exception to operate as a school from it being previously Thor College. That's what I guess that's what Councillor Saunders and I are trying to say, is they don't even fall under a religious non-for-profit on that property. they definitely fall under religious not-for-profit as an organization. And if they were applying for a mosque to be built first before the hostel and the school, well, then we might be having a different conversation. I think that's what Councillor Saunders and I are trying to say.
So I'm going to ask for a mover and a seconder. We've got to extend the, we've passed our hour of closure. So a mover and a seconder to extend that, please. Councillor Waters and Councillor Richardson. And again, I'm going to suggest that perhaps it is something we could defer, because I think there is some confusion, because the motion that Councillor Saunders has put forward and that Councillor Drodge has seconded, if I'm not mistaken, says that if Impact says it's okay, then they don't have to pay the development or the parkland dedication. Am I right? And so what the motion that's on the floor and their intent is not matching. Am I right?
So, Mayor Dolan, just to be clear, the current parkland dedication bylaw has no exemptions. When there's a decision on their MPAC application, I think we can be clear on the specific bylaw amendment that needs to come back to council to reference. Presumably the one we're recommending, the Assessment Act, would then be applicable. But until we hear about that MPAC decision, it may make sense to defer, and then we can bring that specific bylaw back to council. But an amendment will be required because we don't allow exemptions currently under the bylaw.
Councillor Drodge.
Thanks, Your Worship. Yeah, and Councillor Saunders and I, we pulled it for discussion. It wasn't, we haven't even put up a recommendation. We've just been talking about the current one that's in front of us. Having this conversation, if we were to put a recommendation forward, I would support a recommendation to defer this until their impact assessment is dealt with and we see what that result is. If that's what council would like to do, because there's so many questions we still have, I would support that. I would ask that Councillor Saunders would want to also support that if it was something we wanted to do as a council.
I'm good with that.
So we have a moved by Councillor Drodge and seconded by Councillor Saunders to defer.
Yeah, so something along the lines of waiting for the impact assessment to be complete, and then to come back to council with more information, and we'll decide at that time.
Thank you.
CAO Jershaw is very good at wording these things.
Well, the wording's on the screen right now, Councillor. Just have a look and see if that's what your intent was. I'm getting a nod from your seconder.
Yes, that's my intent,
Okay.
Correct.
All right, so comments on the revised recommendation, Councillor Waters?
I'm looking for a point of clarification that was brought up by Councillor Saunders, that he mentioned that there is no religious building on site. So my question goes to, are schools, public schools, considered a non-for-profit, and do they have to pay parkland dedication? So does a school have to pay parkland dedication?
Through you, Mayor Dolan, Councillor Waters, they do pay cash in lieu of parkland.
Thank you.
Any further conversation or comments on this motion to defer? Seeing none. All those in favor of the recommendation? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you. We'll now go to item the rise recommendation, please. Moved by Deputy Mayor, seconded by Councillor Ices. All those in favor? That is carried. And the consideration of adoption, moved by Councillor Zanella, seconded by Councillor Waters. All those in favor? That is carried. And next we go to announcements. If I could ask everybody to be as brief as possible tonight, given the hour. Councillor Ward 1, Councillor Ices.
I always try to be brief, Mayor Dolan, but I can't be tonight because we're talking about the Stroud Arena and Kraft Hockeyville campaign, which ends March 1st. So if you've never been on the website, go on there, type Stroud, you'll be thoroughly impressed by how many residents have already chipped in with their stories, their rallying posts, and their photos. So the more we can add to those, the more points we get, and the bigger chance we have to be selected to get funds for much-needed funds for the repairs, and if we were really lucky or we're really good, we'd get an NHL hockey game too. So that's going on. So please go to the site and help us win. Also, in Ward 1 last week, Mayor Dolan and Deputy Mayor, we got invited to the Station 3 Stroud firefighters regular training night for a very special event. Captain Wayne Ayers finally announced his retirement after 60 years of being on the fire service. It was a very special event. He is such a great guy. He's done so much for the town, and it was great to recognize him there. The Innisfil Spartans are in the playoffs now. This Saturday, they have a game against Stainer Siskins at 7:30. They'll come support the Spartans. And we're talking about if spring will come, but according to town staff, it is coming because there's a spring and summer sign up for programming in Active Innisfil, and that starts next Tuesday, and that includes summer camps. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Councillor Ices. Councillor Constantine, you don't have any. Councillor Richardson.
This Saturday at the Innisfil Lakeshore Library from 10 till 2 is the Radiant Roots event. And then following that, as Mayor Dolan hinted at, is the coldest night of the year at 4 p.m. It's the first year that we'll be doing it. I'm really excited that I've got Team Ward 3 Winter Warriors, and I'm looking forward to it. And still, there's any Ward 3 residents or anyone who wants to be an adopted Ward 3 resident is more than welcome to join me. I've got Candace, Holly, April, and even Bundy will be walking with us. Also at the library next Tuesday, March the 3rd, is their registration for March break. They have so many really great programs lined up for March breaks for your kids. So you want to make sure that you go on Tuesday morning at 9:30 and register your kids. Next Friday evening on the 6th, I will be attending the short story contest winners event. I can't wait to listen to the stories by our local children, our local students. Also next week on the 5th is Be Scam Smart from 2 to 3. The CRA is hosting an interactive session to share info on recognizing CRA-related scams and ways to protect yourself. It's open for adults and seniors. And then Teen Nights is back. I'm so excited. They'll be there this Friday for Teen Nights.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Waters.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have to take my hats off to all those people that showed up and those people who went into the Polar Plunge in Innisfil Beach Park last week. I went and braved the cold weather, stood in that wet water, and so I did that. They did one step more and they actually jumped in, and I watched it all. So it was lots of fun, and I thank them for all the money they raised. It was a good community event. On Friday is Euchre Night at the Lions Club, so if you're looking to win a little extra cash, that's a good place to go. And then on March 6th is Teens Night at the Lions Club from 5 o'clock till 7:30 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zanella. Councillor Saunders.
Thank you. Thanks, Madam Mayor. The Mobile Seniors Active Living Center is at the Wheel on March 12th, where everyone is welcome at 10 a.m. for a beginner-friendly spring dance workshop. Take the Plunge in support of RVH is March 7th at Friday Harbor at 11 o'clock. And our lacrosse team that they're putting together is doing a open lacrosse night at the Killarney Beach Public School March 5th from 6 to 7:30. It's geared to the little ones just so they can come out and see if they like to play lacrosse before signing up.
And I believe Councillor Zanella has Councillor Drodge's announcements.
Thank you. On February 28th, we have snow tubing slide at the Cookstown Community Park, and that is from 10 till 1. On March 5th, it's the Soup Social at the Guilford Church, 10:30 to 1:30, games, social, and soup. March 6th from 11 to 1 p.m. is the chili contest at the Churchill United Church. And March 11th, St. Patrick's Day dinner at Churchill United from 5 to 6:15 sittings, $25 per adult, ham, potatoes, veggies, coleslaw, bun, and dessert.
Thank you, sounds so good. Councillor Drodge, anything else you wanted to add?
No, thank you, Councillor Zanella. I wasn't sure if I was going to be here at the end of the meeting tonight, so I appreciate you between those announcements. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Your Worship. Recently, I hit St. Peter's Pancake Supper. Caused me to be just a few moments late to the Traffic Safety Committee, but it was so worth it when it supports the community. And we have the She Rose Gala the same morning of Take the Plunge at Town Hall. It's a great way to celebrate the powerful women in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much for everyone's announcements. I just have a couple. First of all, I want to point out many of us are donning pink tonight. We're proud to wear pink in recognition of Pink Shirt Day and to stand united against bullying in all its forms. I wanted to offer my congratulations to Wayne Ayres on his longtime service, but there's another member of our team that needs congratulations. I wanted to congratulate Jennifer Marshall. She has successfully graduated the association's diploma in municipal administration. Moreover, she has been inducted into AMCTO's Academic Honor Roll, which recognizes academic achievers from AMCTO. AMCTO is the Association of Municipal Clerks and Treasurers diploma programs. So it's a tremendous accomplishment. Congratulations, Clerk Marshall. It's fantastic. And then the only other comment I wanted to make was the mobile seniors are holding a spring dance workshop in Cookstown at Lefroy at the Morgan Russell Memorial Arena and at Sandy Cove. And it's starting March 10th, 11th, and 12th. And I wanted to put that out there. And then finally, Councillor Drodge and I attended a celebration of life and a funeral for a really special resident on Saturday, which caused us from missing the polar bear plunge, but Ed Collins, I didn't know his name was Charles, but Ed Collins passed away, beloved husband of Maggie Collins, well-known St. Peter's Church elders, as well as well-known members of the Innisfil Legion and former past president of the Legion, I believe, Mr. Collins was. So he'll be deeply missed in our community. And that's it for announcements. So I will go to the confirming bylaw and adjournment at 10:16, moved by Councillor Saunders, second by Councillor Ices, that we now adjourn, and we'll see everybody on March the 11th. Happy International Women's Day to all the women, and good night, everyone. And if you're still with us, thank you for hanging in there. Good night.